Yeah, we're live now. So, welcome everyone to the start of this first ever Spaces by me. Have one of my public enemies from a few years ago now turned friend again, joining shortly to talk about his match coming up with Eric Persson. What's up, Daniel?
Good morning, Mr. Deeb. Are you already on the Peloton, losing 8 pounds a day?
No, I'm waiting for my wife to cook my last meal. I know you're gonna be disappointed, but it's some nice juicy steaks.
What happened to that plain oatmeal with no fucking sauce?
Oh,
or
I got away
sugar?
from that like day 2. We
It
switched.
looked like snot.
Yeah,
Oh, I eat it now.
Ashley loves it with almond butter and bananas, but
Well, now we're talking.
I rotated away from that, and we did some Ezekiel bread, which I actually don't mind. And so that was kind of the sub, and just doing hard-boiled eggs, spinach, strawberries, and then this time it's bananas and almond butter for the breakfast.
If you ever go back to oats, bro, I'm telling you, do overnight oats.
I
Put them in the fridge.
I know
In the morning, it's like a dessert.
Yeah, Brian's been trying to get. I got a couple of it years ago because my wife was into that stuff, and she ended up not liking his brand. But I'm sure it's gotten better over the last few years.
Oh, I make my own.
Oh, okay, because that's the name of his brand. So that's why I thought you were.
I know. And that works too, but it's as simple as you just put oats in some milk and then add whatever you want, like some maple syrup, yogurt, whatever, and then you put berries in the morning. Baby. Who knew people were going to tune in for fucking breakfast show?
I just can't believe how much the diet has not bothered me. Obviously, my wife's a pretty good cook and knows how to season things the way I like it, and I love hot sauce and everything. But I really thought diet was going to be the hard part of this for me.
What are you at now? What's the weight
I was
update?
287 this morning, so down about 20 pounds. Pretty good for 4 or 5 weeks in.
Yeah, obviously the first 20 to 30 are going to be the easiest ones, but it's good first step. I was wondering, because I was talking about this on our podcast. My concern for you is the World Series, because I know you play 35 events a day, and I just don't see you at 9 a.m. at the gym with a fucking protein smoothie after playing for 30 hours.
So I already talked.
That's going to be hard.
I already talked to Jack about that, and I think the best time for me to work out personally is going to be at the end of a session. Especially with, thanks to you, the earlier schedule, everything ending a little bit. I already got access to the Planet Hollywood gym, and so I'm going to do some 1 a.m. sessions. I have an idea for content of, inviting a different pro or trainer at different times to come join me for a workout, do kind of a, no jumper type of interview where we work out together and chat during it and then sit down after it. I think it would be a lot of fun.
That's cool if you can. I know, generally speaking, for most people who work out, doing it in first thing in the morning is the easiest, simply because then you have your day, and it's much easier later in the day to be like, you know what, fuck it, I'm too tired to work out. But if it's first thing in the morning, it's easy to get to. But I imagine you could probably do some cardio in the morning.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do cardio in the morning. That's my current game plan, and I think that's gonna be an easy transition. And also, I think dinner breaks might be a time when I get my workout in. I usually would take naps sometimes, or just whatever. So talking to a meal plan company about having meals ready, I don't think I need to eat on dinner break, and that might be actually the ideal workout time for me.
I agree. Yeah, the work that could be good for you. So, are you doing it? Do you sell pieces at all on PokerStake or anything?
I do. Yes. I just listed my 25K 6-max, 1.2 markup. And I'll sell to the 25K pluses. Obviously close with Josh. He always tries to get me to do some stuff. And I know you sold out quickly. Big shocker there.
Yeah, so did Alan Kessler approve the markup? Because I know I talked to him privately, and he thinks you're only worth 1.18.
Speaking of Kessler, I have a really funny aside from today. He was in my DMs and advertising his package to me, saying what a great deal it was. And I'm like, Alan, you at 10Ks at no markup is not a good buy. I was like,
that's mean.
Well, it's just true. Listen, it's Alan. You can, I'm just like I'm with other people, you can be brutally honest with Alan, and he will understand. And I think he appreciates it. And we were negotiating a bracelet prop bet because he says, "Oh, when I get a winner's photo, I'm coming and you're joining me in the photo." I said, Alan, I'll lay you 10-1. Must win bracelet between me and you. If we both win one, it's a chop. And he didn't want to do that. He's like, "Oh, you play so many smaller field events." And then I was like, "Okay, well, mutually played. How about 5-1?" And he scoffed at that. And he's like, "I've been heads up 4 times," and told me his bad beats in all of them. And he said the funniest line. He said, "I was heads up with Rast and no limit. He had 2 pair. He made a flush on the river, and then he goes on to beat Helmy for the 50K. I started his heater." Like,
Yeah.
he's so delusional to think that Brian Rast was not going to be
But
successful.
realistically, like if he's selling it even parlay, you can't sell for markdown, right? Like I mean, as far as like if people I think a lot of people, and this is I know the debate you've had with markup, for a lot of people, it's a little bit of an entertainment sweat,
Yeah, no,
right?
and I totally agree with that. And I think, we both came to a different realization throughout our conversations years back. I'm not nearly as harsh. And I think you also realize that the entertainment aspect, and yes, I know there are some people who are charging their community away. And yes, travel expenses, like there are other costs that the players assume that should be included a little bit in there. But I mean, I also
Yeah,
think
I
Alan,
never
he
had a
cares more
problem.
about.
Yeah. Sorry, I
No,
never
go
had a
ahead.
problem. I never had a problem with two things. Number one, I never had a problem with whatever anybody sold for. I'm like, post whatever. But number two, I had zero problem with you or Mike McDonald saying, excuse me, guys, A, that's too high. And B, guess what? In Timex's case, I will book it cheaper. Right. Which was a great thing that we had in the economy. But I do think that like staking in general is really, really important for tournament poker, right? And people being able to sell because if you eliminated staking, I don't think people realize a lot of people that don't play regularly, like the average grinder, maybe the slightly ahead of break even grinder, like it's very difficult for them to have a bankroll to sustain playing, tournaments which are swingy, right?
For sure. And I think that, I love that it's public because seeing who has a piece of someone is something I've been a proponent of for years, saying I want the sites to incorporate some type of system. And I hope the World Series and GG, when you guys finish your deal finally, that comes incorporated where we know at the 100K who exactly has pieces of people. Because when you see someone has 10 or 20% of someone else and 8% of themselves, weird hands can go down. Now you have more justification in watching for collusion and other soft play type
I
spots.
got a funny story I want to share with people that people don't know about. It was like I was in the Super High Roller Bowl and I was three-handed with Jason Kuhn and Justin Bonomo, right? But at four-handed, there's a hand that plays out and we're shooting the shit, doing some table talk. I raise, Kuhn three bets me, and he's like, I can tell you I don't have two sixes now this time, right? Which like is absolutely meaningless. It means nothing, right? He could, but it's just obvious in the spot. Like he wasn't, I think it was a cold four bet, maybe even. And then Bonomo, this is so weird. Bonomo sort of accuses Kuhn of colluding in a way, but I'm like, you guys have a piece of each other. I don't have a piece of anybody. And then ultimately, when we did get three-handed, I did this off camera because I was just so if you're three-handed and two people have a piece, it's kind of relevant, like for your strategy. Like, how big is that piece, right? If you're playing with two people that have a 50% swap, you're pretty dead. Like, I mean, it's even implicitly, if people have that big of a piece of each other, even if they're like consciously not trying to cheat, it's just foolish for them to like burn equity and try to bust each other. You know what I mean? So it's like it's even if it's implicit and subtle, it's problematic. So I asked Justin, I said, how big is your piece? He wouldn't tell me. He just said something about, is it good enough to know that I'm playing a certain percentage of myself? And I was like, whatever, you don't have to share. But I agree with you that like it makes things a lot more, and it's difficult to do in the high roller community because if if you put in a rule where like people have to share, then all the bad actors are just going to benefit even more, right? Because like they won't. So
Yeah, I mean, from our final tables in Europe, like when I found out after that, one of the quote unquote businessmen was staking one or two people at the final table, like I was not excited to find that out after the fact. It definitely left a sour taste in my mind because there was a couple hands they played, and one seemed really annoyed that the other one. I don't think there was anything shady was going on. I think they're very trustworthy people, but it's like finding out after the fact that that's their backer. Some hands and some frequencies are going to be different, and they're going to not take the marginal spots for each other, and that kind of
yeah,
sucks if you
I
don't
remember
know as a.
I remember the first time I ever realized this, and I was in my early 20s. Me and Alan Cunningham, we were in Tunica, Mississippi, and there was like a 500, 1,000 Raz game going. And neither of us could really afford to play that big, right? It's a little bit high. So we said, let's just swap 50%. Absolutely no intention of doing anything bad, right? But then it's Raz. So then there was a spot where it's like, Alan bets, I have the nuts, and there's like two people behind me. And I'm like, in the moment, I'm like, well, fuck, I have to call here. right? And it's like, holy shit, you know? And literally right after that hand, I looked at him, I was like, we can't do this because like raising is me saying to play correctly and not cheat. I'm actually just burning equity rather than let
Yeah.
people draw dead because I have a wheel, right? It's like, so it's yeah. So I don't know. It's nothing that we can really do much about, but it's anyone who does swap, like understand that if you're swapping big pieces of people in the same events, it's going to bring up uncomfortable situations, and it's obviously borderline. Well, I don't know. It's not even borderline. It just kind of ends up being a little bit shady.
Yeah, I think that, we could come up with an idea of what's a max percentage of swap, and I think it should be a percentage of their total action. Like it should be, you can't swap more than 10 or 20% of whatever action you have yourself with someone else in the tournament. Because once you start getting to those numbers, it really starts affecting your decision making. As much as you or I or a lot of people in that spot would try not to, sometimes it just fucking, you do it and it's really bad.
Yeah, and yeah, like I totally agree. And again, the hard part with that is like people don't have incentive to do that. For me personally, like if I felt like I was going to swap with somebody, I don't really do it anyway. But it's almost like if you're both at the final table, you should like off the swap, right? Like just be like, okay, we had 10%, we're both going to do fine. Let's just cancel, cancel the swap. But that would be difficult too, because then you're talking about, somebody having this more chips than the other and other problems.
Yeah, I never thought of that because I know a lot of people swap. Like when I swap with Volpe, for example, he only likes to do final table swaps that are in play when someone final tables in the smaller field events. And obviously, more likely it's just one, but if both are there, that is a very intriguing thing to consider. I never thought of that option. But yeah, that's weird.
Okay, so now I want to ask about. So you're playing this huge match against Mike Matusow. Like I don't know what the line is, but Mike told me Matusow flat out told me to bet everything I can because his no limit game is so fucking sharp right now that you have no chance whatsoever.
I mean, I probably have no chance. I mean, I suck. By the way, Mike didn't even realize this space was going. He just has to join. Um, I suck at heads up no limit. I am not a good no limit player. You know this, Daniel. I've said this for years, and I always had this image as a no limit guy from my tournament days. But when I was quote unquote good at no limit, everyone else sucked. And the shit I do versus the GTO guys is terrible. I'm so unbalanced, and I just get lit the fuck up in the high rollers a lot of the time.
The old Shaun Deeb, I remember when you were very young and starting out, and I'd laugh my ass off to some of the ways that you would describe hands because there was one I think it was in Bahamas
The
where
king
you like
queen blockers.
yeah
Yep.
you like 5 bet 6 bet jammed king queen and said you have blockers and I was like buddy you don't have a single ace and Grandpa Joe has both of them like always but you're like I blocked the kings and I blocked the queens.
The
That's
funniest
when
thing about that hand was that was like a German like weak reg, and people call him like his nickname is the Nit, and I just like 6 bet jammed because it was hand before break, and I'm like I go fucking nuts, and it was a good spot to squeeze, and then he 4 bet, and I just rip it in like 120 bigs, no ante, with king
but
queen
back then
off.
you justified it like it was right because you were
Yeah,
young and
no, yeah,
learning.
and but it was funny to see how blockers became relevant as time came on. You know what I mean? It's like I was doing some things correctly with the wrong frequency, but it wasn't as bad, as some people thought at the time.
By the way, it looks like you got Eric Persson in the chat.
Oh, great! We'll get him up here if he wants to chat with you guys. I know you guys are playing in a couple days. I think everyone's pumped for that. I think he's going to be a little bit nicer to you than Helmuth. He might have a little more respect for your game.
I mean, yeah, like I don't. This is the thing. Like when they asked me to play Eric, I was like, I sort of did not decline in the beginning because I'm like, I don't really have a beef with him. Like there's no animosity going into this match. There's no like, oh, I got to beat Eric. But I'm gonna go into it with like just the mindset of like it's gonna be fun, entertaining, and he's a table talker, and I'm sure we'll get into some really fun spots. And we're obviously locked in to play at least 2 rounds because the way that it works is you have to win 2 in order to cash out anything. I don't know. Yours is different, right? Because yours is just like a 10K.
Yeah, so me and Mike were actually talking today, and because it's gonna be streamed on YouTube, and I'm flying out for that, I was like, hey, if the match goes quickly, like we know heads up how it can go. It can be in 30, 40 minutes, or even the first hand, So if it's quickly, we're gonna do a secondary match and just continue at the current blind levels where they are, and then just do it. So we're gonna get a couple hours. I think the history of me and Mike. He knows I'm gonna slow roll him. I think he's gonna try to slow roll me, which I think will be really funny because he's going to act so awkward. I'm just going to know the slow roll's coming. He's going to start squirming in his chair. It's going to be hilarious.
Yeah. So can you let people in so they can speak? Because I can't do it, right?
I invited Eric to speak, so he has to accept it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, and Andrew Tang is also co-host. He can accept people, so when Matusow gets in here, he can jump up and speak as well.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I don't see how your match is going to be 30, 40 minutes because, like, based on the Mike Matusow that I know, like, I mean, unless he has one of his patented blowups, like, he sounds like it's going to be a slow grind for either one of you.
I mean, if he starts limping like 200 blinds deep, I'm just gonna roll my eyes and make fun of him.
Oh, he will. I mean, him and Helmuth have, they talk poker. They have their study sessions.
Yeah, I mean,
Brandon Cantu,
yeah, I was
Mike
gonna say Cantu.
Matusow,
That's
and
when I think of top no limit players. That's the three I think of first.
I would honestly like to be a fly on the wall to listen to that sometimes, honestly, and just hear how they come to conclusions about things.
I mean, I've gotten enough hand histories from Phil over the years, and I'm sure you have as well. You know, one of my favorite Phil and you stories is when you guys made the 50K PLO final table together, and I got knocked out by you, like with like 10 left or 11 left. And when you get knocked out, you message me how bad Phil plays, and then Phil, when he loses heads up, messaged me how bad you played, and you're both like, you know, who played better, because you're like, you're the good PLO tournament player, and I'm just watching some of the hands and just laughing because
Yeah,
like
watch the
you
tape.
yeah, no, I watched the tape, and there were some well played hands by both of you guys, and some bad ones, but you guys are great tournament players and not as comfortable in PLO. It definitely shows because there's
Oh, I
big
am
blind
now.
handing.
Like,
Yeah,
I've played a lot more PLO tournaments, and it's probably one of my stronger games, in terms of like tournament format. Because, like you said, I think a lot of PLO players misunderstand some of the like ICM like concepts that show up, and PLO tournaments are much better now than they used to be because of the big blind ante. But before that, the bubbles were just horrendously kind of stupid, right? Because like you have four players sitting on four bigs, and nobody can even play a hand. Like, financially from an ICM perspective, it's like, ace 10-9 is like, oh, that's a nice hand, but like, how you're not even a big favorite if you get it in, right?
yeah. So Eric requested to join. I think he hit the wrong button and left, so I'll try to get him back up here in a second. But yeah, I think like PLO tournaments fit your style very well. Good at defending, good at playing a lot of hands, floating, reading board textures, like that's so important in shallow stack PLO. It's
And
not
you don't
just
have to
getting in
fold
and
three
running it.
bets. And like the for me, like what I really enjoy about it is it's so post flop dependent. Like, if you're a little bit on the loosey goosey side pre-flop, you don't get as punished as you would in Hold'em, right? If you're opening like 6-4 suited and Hold'em under the gun and getting three bet and calling out a position, I'd do that to you just to fuck with you because it's fun.
I think it was 4-5 suited. I'll
It was
defend you there.
3-5 suited, I think, but hey,
No,
whatever.
it was 4-5. I remember it was ace deuce four.
Yeah.
I
But
remember the
that's
flop.
that's not long term going to do very well. But in like, in PLO, like, if you're deep enough and you open 4, 5, 7, 8 and you get three bet, you're like, cool. I don't give a shit. Like, who cares? Like, it's not like, it's not like you have to you don't have to fold that off into three bets, which makes it a fun game.
Yeah, well, one thing I do disagree with you. Actually, I think that pre-flop is more important when you get to the deeper strategy because you get to deny equity in spots where people can't call. That was one of the things both you and Phil, I think, were lacking. There was a couple ace king Broadway hands that you guys either flat or didn't three bet in some spots versus a loose button open that actually played better as a three bet because you get so many folds.
Yeah, I don't remember doing that, but I hear you. I didn't like one hand I played against what do you call it, against Jeremy. Where I three bet the small with a really bad aces and then check folded flop. I like the check fold on flop, but I don't like the three bet. I think it's a hand that's so bad I should just flat.
You had like 1.5 or 2 pots. I think that was totally fine to three bet. And I think you still got a pot the flop. I think it was whatever 10-10-9 or whatever.
No, it was 9-9. It was 9-9 something with two spades. I had no spades in my hand.
Yeah, you had like ace 10-5 rainbow or whatever.
Ace crap, but it's like and then I check and he bets pretty good, and like he obviously had a hand. He wasn't bluffing. He had king.
I mean,
10,
he had
10
queens and a
spades.
flush draw. I think.
No, he had kings. He had kings and tens with a flush draw. So it's like,
okay.
That's my best case scenario. I'm happily folding fucking ugly aces here, but I think slow playing it would have been much better there because then I can check call flop and maybe get to river. But anyway.
No, I think three betting pre is 1,000% the play there. You guys were too shallow to flat.
I don't think we were that shallow, especially with a tournament format. Like, I think we were 1 and 2 in chips at the time, and I think that,
which is why like he's going to fold a ton to your open, and instead of playing out position,
yeah, but he's in position. He's in position, so he's going to fold less.
he's still a good tournament player, and I think he would fold a lot of hands versus your 3-bet there.
I don't know. What is he going to fold? 9, 10, queen, king? No,
not unpaired, but there's plenty of paired single suited hands.
Yeah, that's it.
Single suited ace high hands, which is still like half his range.
All right, get some speakers in here.
I'm trying to get Eric up here, but I think he's struggling with technology.
All right. Is anybody else requesting?
Oh, I see Josh Arieh. Yeah, I'll get him in. What's up, Josh?
Daniel, don't listen to his PLO strategy. It's horrible. Shaun just wants to get it in every hand, and don't listen to his PLO strategy.
Yeah, my results are terrible.
They are. What? So, Shaun, tell me again what you and Matusow's deal is.
$10,000 heads up match live on YouTube. Gonna be streamed from the start. If it's a quick match, we're gonna do a secondary one, and we're just a little undercard. Me and him have some history. We're good friends. We can table talk and have some fun. It sucks that I would love to sit there and drink during this match, but because of my weight loss bet, I can't. So it'll be fun. I'm flying out there. I'm gonna be a little tired. I suck at heads up no limit. Matusow saying he's the best he's ever played no limit. So we'll see.
I messaged him about selling some World Series stuff a couple weeks ago, and his first response is how good he's playing.
I see Eric join, so let's let Eric and Daniel chat a little bit. You there, Eric?
Hi guys, how you doing?
What's up, buddy?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Why don't you and Daniel have a little chat? I'm going to mute myself and talk about your match. And, you guys got some banner. You guys going to build some history from the high stakes shows. And I think everyone's intrigued to watch you play heads up for a couple 100,000.
I mean, I'm just looking forward to it because I think it should be a pretty, I think Daniel and I have some pretty good banner and interchange. I think that both of us like to see a lot of flops. It's probably going to be pretty good entertainment, So I'm just sort of looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, honestly.
Yeah, like you said earlier, I think it's going to be very different than the infamous match that Eric had against Phil, because you went in there and you literally went in to psychologically break him down and destroy him. Like, you just dismantled him hand by hand, and you could see it on his face, and you just kept telling him you were going to bust him, and you did. And like, I don't imagine our match is going to look like that one.
Yeah, I don't really see a lot of similarities in any way. This is just going to be honestly a lot of fun. Like, I think it's no secret, both of us are after the flop players, and that creativity is going to probably make a match that, I know you have a hockey game, so I'm going to do my best to knit up and do, BPEP 5 so that you have to
now. We're okay.
Oh,
we're playing before the hockey game. We're fine.
Oh, shit. My whole strategy is ruined.
So I got a question for you about your Helmuth match. Like, you went in there, it seemed like, I don't know if you did, you had a calculated plan on how you were going to dismantle him. But, like, did you actually genuinely have any animosity towards him? Or was it, like, just kind of, you just sort of made it up?
Well, no, what happened was the game just sort of played itself. And if you really watch the video from the start, he starts going after me, just saying, ridiculing my play, saying I'm just, an uneducated businessman. I don't even remember exactly what the fuck he said. And then at that point, he just didn't understand who I was at all. And I'm not going to let him belittle me in any way. And so I just went back at him. And then once I realized the extent that it was working, talking is really a pretty big part of my game. And I just kept pushing it further and further and further because I realized he was just really out of his element. And there's this point where I could have ended the tournament, but I'm pretty sure he 3-bet me with nothing, and I folded just because, and he did have nothing, but I folded. I was just like, I got this. I don't even have to play any hands. And it wasn't that I went in there trying to do that to him, but he brought it on, and my nature is that I'm just not going to be pushed around, So it sort of played itself out, I guess. And but I wish I could tell you it was calculated.
You were breaking up there.
Oh, sorry. I wish I could tell you it was a calculated strategy, but I'd be lying. It was just how it worked out.
So So he's like, according to you, I mean, rather than quoting a fiver, but like, quote unquote, he started it, which he does, right?
Yeah, I mean, he basically said I'm playing some 10-20 game. He just like he was saying anything he could to sort of like, I guess, needle me, and I guess he thought that I was just going to absorb it. But like, I'm rubber and he's glue. It's going to bounce off me and stick to him or whatever.
I think I told you this, and I don't know if it was Ali or Nick or who said this during the broadcast, but like, you sort of represented in that moment to me, because I watched it again because it was fun to watch. You represent like an amalgamation of the hundreds or thousands of players that Phil has just berated and calling idiots and da-da-da. And you were like, 2 fingers forward. Fuck you, dude. I'm going to bust you. You suck balls. You can't come in our game. And he had no idea what to do. And then I thought was really interesting about that, if you guys didn't watch this, so Eric's giving it to him pretty hard. And then Phil calls the floor and says, can someone protect me? Can someone protect me? And I'm like, protect you, bro? All he's doing is talking shit. He's only talking smack, just like you talk smack. And it was just, interesting to see that when he got a little back, that, he instantly ran to the floor. And I'll tell you what I don't like about the world, just kind of, and I'm in the same boat, is people like myself or Helmuth. Like, I don't want special treatment. I genuinely do not. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. If I'm out of line and I break a selfie stick at the table and I'm supposed to get a penalty, give me the penalty, whatever the case may be. And like with Phil, there's been many times where, he gets out of line, talks to the floor. They don't want any trouble. And because it's Phil, I think he gets away with a lot more. Because, like, in that case, like him asking you to get a warning and you go, what about him? And he just is like, oh, now you're trying to get me a warning too? That was strange to me.
Yeah, and then so then I get my warning, and so I just shut the fuck up, and he just keeps talking. That's another funny thing about the video if you watch it. I shut up. Now I'm not saying a word. He just keeps talking. So I start looking over at Paul, start shrugging my shoulders like, can he do this? And then, and then he feels like, what, you're trying to give me a warning? And I'm like, I'm just asking the question. And Paul begrudgingly, gives him a warning too. And that was monkey tail. That was when it was over, honestly. That was a lot of fun. Truthfully, that was just a lot of fun. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun, but it'll be a different kind of fun.
Yeah, Madison help him. He's really stupid. He has no idea how to enter. How do I join? I'm logged in. I don't know.
I'll try to DM while you guys are still chatting and try to get him in here.
Yeah, I don't know. It's difficult to talk to him. Okay, so you and me. So you just finished playing like a whole shit ton of like streams, and like you play basically every stream 100% of the time. Like what? Like because you've only been doing this for a little while. Like what was the impetus for you to decide you wanted to stream and play like super high, on all the time?
Well, for me, I put myself through undergrad in law school playing poker, and I went off to Georgetown Law, and then I worked for a bunch of casino companies and built my own company, and then COVID hit, and I hadn't played in, I don't know, a long time, 8 years or something, and I was really just sort of stuck in Vegas, and I wasn't able to fly around, and sort of like a lot of people, just sort of getting like antsy, want to get out of the house, and I just started going down the Bellagio and playing poker, honestly, and what I realized was I just sort of sensed an opportunity. I thought that I could start to build some name recognition for my brand, Maverick Gaming, and I started thinking about my access to like televised poker and streaming, and I was pretty sure that I could find a path that would get me a lot of exposure for my brand really quickly, and sort of be able to mix it up with a lot of people who various degrees were my friends but have become even like better friends now, and basically over that course of that year, I just sort of did it. Yeah. So I'm like on year 2 of doing this is all. I'm like 18, 20 months or something. And it's been a pretty fun ride, and yeah, now I'm playing I'm sure I'm playing in the biggest games in North America, as high as like 10, 20,000. And even like on high stakes poker this week, we were playing 2, 4, 8, 16,000. So like I'm playing in really big games, having a lot of fun. And I'm having a lot of fun streaming, and I think like exponentially the awareness of what Maverick Gaming as a brand has grown over the last 2 years is like enormous. Like we sell so much merchandise at this point. It's pretty fucking crazy.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, do you think you're somewhat misunderstood? Because from where I sit, I see you get into it and I see you talk shit and talks back with people. But what I noticed typically, unless I'm correct me if I'm wrong, it's like you responding rather than initiating.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I'm not a bully, like, but I'm not here to be bullied either. And there's just like, and there's certain players and attributes that I don't like. And so like when people are really tough on dealers, I don't like it. And I'm just willing to, say something. And so I think like, I don't know if I can anti-hero. I don't know what the right word is, but it's like, I think that some people who don't have a lot of exposure to me and don't ever spend any time with me away from poker, they think like I'm a super aggressive person and just, I don't know, like a rich guy just throwing away his money and his weight around and whatever. But like, I think the truth of the matter is the people who I spend the most time with and play the most with understand that like if I'm upset, there's a reason, and it's probably like I'm probably not out of line, and I'm probably responding to things that are just, like Phil's a bully, man, and I'm sure he's by all accounts he's a really nice guy away from the felt, but I'm really certain about a lot of his behavior over time and the way he's treated a lot of people who are probably just really excited to sit down and play with them, and I've seen firsthand those people go with really bad experiences, and so like I'm not the personality that was ever going to accept that, but I'm also the personality that's going to like sort of help them understand, through my own actions, like really that's not appropriate. Like what you're doing isn't cool. Like being a dick just isn't fucking cool. And I'm like happy to like, call that out and go maybe even across that line. And I push it pretty far, and I think that's why you see a lot of YouTube and highlights. And I think that's why people have that perspective. But I think a lot of the people who know me pretty well know that like I'm not acting. So don't get me wrong. This is just who I am. And that's why it's so easy and it comes off. It's pretty effortless, but I'm not a bully. Like, I'm just not going to take it.
Yeah.
I don't have
Well,
to.
speaking of being a dick, I want to get your thoughts because there's been a lot of discussion on Twitter about like quote unquote what makes a good stream, what makes a bad stream,
Yeah.
and I know you have some specific thoughts on this. I was curious, first of all, what you thought of the big Nick Airball Berkey stream in terms of like how it played out. Do you think like that is what the people want to see, or they rather see Patrick Antonius, Tom Dwan, Phil Ivey, and like quote unquote real high level poker or high school name calling?
Well, that that's a really fair question. And frankly, I thought, and I participated in that show, obviously, and I felt a little uncomfortable going into it. I thought it was a lot of piling on, really, on Berkey. I mean, they added his ex-girlfriend on the show, and like, I thought, man, that's just like one step too much. And I had a very specific issue, and I addressed my issue, and I think, I had a 500,000 views. So it's like, my issue is that I'm playing in $1 million buy-in, and he's saying 100% that I back Patrick Antonius, who's admittedly a really good friend of mine, but I don't back anybody. And I certainly wouldn't, back someone in a game that I'm playing in and not disclose it. First of all, I would never back anyone ever, and if I did, it would be disclosed. And and I got another person who I spent a lot of time with, like Rob Young, and he's in that game too. And if in fact I did that, it'd be super unethical. And so I wanted to, I called Berkey out on that because it's bullshit. I don't back people. I don't trade pieces. I don't even think it's a great investment. And I think, I only invest in things I own and control, like my company. But beyond that, I addressed it. And so I went on that stream, and
well, when you
I
say
didn't
you
know what.
addressed it, just sorry to interrupt, but like, did Berkey acknowledge that he was out of line for suggesting that, or would you guys talk about it?
So like Berkey, that's the thing, Daniel. Like Berkey, okay, a guy named Jeremiah Williams had a wedding at my house, and Berkey was at my house, and Berkey has my phone number. And then Berkey decided to go on stream and say that I'm backing Patrick Antonius 100%. He never called me. He never reached out. He didn't do any of that. And I was really disappointed in that because, and you're like in the same spot. We participate in streams, and there's all these marginal people, and some of them have, or like they're all trading pieces, or they're playing
You're cutting out a
10%.
little bit, Eric. I don't know if that's with me or everyone. You want to
No,
repeat the last 30 seconds?
okay, I'm sorry. So I'm on a ferry. I'm up in Washington. I'm opening a card room in like a day. So it's like, I'm sorry. Like, it's just, I'm over some water. So if I lose you, I'm sorry. But like, Berkey was at a wedding that was at my house when a friend of mine, Jeremiah Williams, got married. He has my phone number, and he goes on stream and he says that I'm backing someone playing in a game 100%. And he's undermining streaming. He's undermining, and there's always these fringe people out there who, say that streams are fake, say that like, they're playing for 10% or it's just, whatever. And like, it's just all bullshit, And so for someone like Berkey who participates in streaming to the extent he can, and he did a lot like it live at the bike, and he's on high stakes poker and stuff, like that's really not cool. Like he should have called me. but he didn't. He chose to just, and then he chose to take that opportunity to amplify it again on his, podcast and whatever. But like, that's my issue with Berkey. Berkey is very specific. It's specific to that, and I address it.
So he has not to this point come out and said, I apologize for making the assumption or the assertion.
No, what he did was he ran with it on OnlyFans and then did a podcast about it. He couldn't deny any of the stuff I said because it was very well edited. I used his own words. Like, there's no disputing, anything. But what he chose to do was try to, turn it into like clickbait and get, more views and be like, how come, you don't care about Brambala too, or Phil Hellmuth? Or the difference is Berkey said 100% that I back Patrick and Tony. So other people, Hellmuth's very careful to say, I don't know. I heard that Eric had, piece of Patrick. So that's different. But when you're a streamer, when you have the notoriety and you have this, we'll call academy or whatever it is, so people think you're credible, and then you say that, there's a portion of people going to believe it, and that's fucking dangerous because streaming is is one of the ways I'm building my brand, and there's a lot of people who have a lot invested in it and are both in time, energy, and money, and he's one of those people, so he shouldn't be saying stuff so reckless. And no, he hasn't apologized. He hasn't even acknowledged that he's wrong.
Oh, well, Berkey's in there, right? I don't know if he wants to chat or wants to give his side of it.
He wants to come up here. I also try to invite Mike, but he's struggling with technology. Just like he'll struggle in our heads up match.
Yeah. So no, so obviously I have not heard when Berkey comes on, you can just cut me out and let him speak. But from my perspective, if that's the case, essentially, wasn't that high stakes game like 4-handed or 5-handed? So the idea of you playing in $1 million buy-in where you have a big chunk of Patrick, and if those people don't know, and him sort of saying that, it's essentially questioning your character to a certain degree, I would imagine.
It's not only questioning my character, which it is, it's also undermining streaming itself and Poker Go. It's saying that they're participating in, games that have collusion at the end of the day. Look, we all know that there's high stakes games and people are backed, and I play in some of those really big games, and people always disclose it. They say they're at the same table. It happens. And and if that were the case, I wouldn't do it because I don't back anybody, but it would have been disclosed. And I'm the one that built that lineup, Daniel. All 6 of those people, 5 plus me, those are all people I put in that fucking game. Like, so it's like, and what I mean by that is, I said, hey, do you want to play in this game? And like, they accepted. Some people said no, some people said yes. But like, I put together that lineup, and I'm certainly not going to put together a lineup where, I'm colluding. It's fucking ridiculous. And it's ridiculous. And it calls into question Patrick's character too, by the way.
For
it's
sure.
ridiculous.
So Berkey's in the chat. I figure, go ahead. Berkey, if you want to share, go ahead.
All right. I just came in last minute, but I can imagine what the conversation is. To add some clarity to this, as far as what my perspective was on the whole thing, what Eric clipped out and turned into a video was literally just like loose table talk. And I understand why he's upset, and I'm sorry if any involvement from my behalf is what upset him. But go watch the video. It's 3 minutes of Brown Balla explaining, not with a questioning tone, but stating that Eric had a piece of Patrick. And it gets followed up by Hellmuth corroborating that and saying, like, yeah, I heard from many people as well that, he had a piece. And yeah, of course, Phil went out of his way to cover his own ass. The only words that came out of my mouth was a hyperbolic, 100%. As in, like, that's my observation, is it seems as though he was backing Patrick. As far as what this means to Eric, I don't think anybody's accusing you guys of having colluded. You having a piece of Patrick in a game that large, to me, doesn't really matter all that much. And I would imagine that if you did, it would have been known by the other players at the table anyway.
I disagree because of the extra side bet in that game. Because
that's fair. That's fair to the public, right? But my point is, let's say, hypothetically speaking, he was backing Patrick, and Robo knew, and Marcus knew, and MJ knew, and I'm forgetting the 6th person. Oh, Rob knew, right? Say they all knew, and it just wasn't public knowledge. I don't see any issue with this whatsoever. I don't think anyone was questioning your integrity or your character. And again, like, it was just an off the cuff hyperbolic, like, yeah, man, I'm pretty sure he backs Patrick. Like, they're good friends, and this is way too big for Patrick to be playing. So, like, I understand you're upset, and I'm sorry that my words were a byproduct of that, but I can't believe I'm the center of attention here. To me, it just looked like an attempt to leverage my platform to get yourself into the conversation while everything was flowing. And I don't think it's that outrageous for me to believe that. Like, you're on record as saying, like, you're trying to build a brand, you're attempting to get into the streaming realm. Me, all the topic during this time, and it just felt like you were inserting yourself, and that's fine if you want to do it. But of course, I'm going to defend myself and clap back a bit.
And just so you know, Matt, like that's precisely what my issue is. Like, I get what you're saying as relates to Brown Balla. I just don't think that he has that much credibility in the public and streaming world in relation to what your platform is. And so when you say 100% and you have like your own academy and you've been streaming for a long time, I think that and obviously Phil is so weak and wishy-washy and like, oh, I don't know anything for sure and blah, blah, blah. But when you say that, given who you are in terms of your notoriety in this platform, that was my issue. My issue was that you chose a streaming platform, and to say that I'm backing someone 100%, which I wasn't, and you had my phone number. You could have asked me. I would have told you I wasn't. But my bigger concern was people would take what you said and believe it and then run with it. And I'd already had to deal with that shit with Prod Friedman, basically. You know, like and people already try to make streaming seem like it's bullshit, and it's super annoying. That fringe side is like so poisonous, you know.
I completely understand where you're coming from. My counter to that is no one on earth would have ever even known those comments existed if you didn't shine a light on it.
Well, but that's because you're not seeing my messages, my direct messages, and the stuff that's coming into me. That just wasn't the case.
Well, what I'm saying with regard to that being messaged to you, as far as like people believing that to be true, that was the underlying public perception anyway. So I understand that you're upset that like I somehow corroborated that, but my whole point is that it could have just been something that you addressed publicly without like bringing that small snippet of a conversation into it, because that certainly was not the source, at least in my opinion.
I don't think it was a source. I think you saying 100% it's true. That was my issue. And my issue was more with you because I sort of disappointed in you. You do have my number. You could have contacted me. And I think people think you're credible. And that was my issue.
Fair.
That is my issue.
I totally get. But like, fair. But like, what would I have contacted you over? Like this wasn't a concern to me.
Hey.
I didn't care.
Well,
like it was just something that came up.
I guess what I'm saying
came up casually in a game.
I guess what I'm saying is you're a high profile streamer and your words are taken with weight. And maybe you should be more careful with the words you say as it relates to stuff that undermines the very thing, which is streaming, that we do.
Totally fair. But, you know, if we go through and dissect every single word that any of us says on a mic, you're going to be able to nitpick a lot of shit. Like, at what point is there a little bit of grace being offered? What if I had said 1 billion%? Is that, like, hyperbolic enough where we can say, you know, not much thought went into that comment? Or, you know what I mean? Because, like, you're taking the 100% at face as though it wasn't obviously said as an exaggeration.
Lost you.
I'm chiming in here for a second. I think, you know, in the Robbie thing, we learned using the word 100% has different meaning. And I feel like Berkey, you know, you might have learned that during all that time. And you may have intended it that way. But, you know, if Eric obviously takes it the wrong way, I'm sure he's not the only listener you have who did take it that way. And, you know, all the shit you give Doug, even, you know, Doug is realized that, like, when he's going to do a hit piece on someone, hey, let's reach out to them, especially when you have a relationship with them. And I think going forward, that might be a good idea for you because your podcast is getting bigger. You are, you know, very trusted. You are a person I consider of high integrity, and so do a lot of other people. So, you know, when you say it, I think it carries a lot more weight.
But it wasn't said on the podcast, man. It was said in passing on a stream game. Like, this is the part that we're leaving out. This was just a casual.
I misconstrued that. I did not know that. I apologize.
But I will say this, like,
Good.
And I hear both of you. I know you didn't like on a podcast make a video saying, breaking news. Was Persson backing? It was an off the cuff comment. But I think what we have to all appreciate and realize is like when we're on these streams, we're essentially on TV, right? So like anything we say, even if it is off the cuff, we have to kind of like have to stand for it and responsible. And you really have like in a sense, you have credibility in the industry. So whoever the random viewer sees you make this off the cuff comment, and then all the sort of prolod like conspiracy theorists are go, aha, you see, Berkey knows the inside stuff, and it just leads to a bunch of crap. And listen, I get it. Like people talk at the table, and it is what it is. But I guess the overall arching thing I'm trying to get to is that when we are like on a stream, we have to be extra cognizant of anything we say that could affect somebody in a way, especially if we're not like actually 100% sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not trying to shirk any responsibility here. I'm just saying that if this is the direction we're going, where we over scrutinize every word that's ever said in passing on a live stream, we're going to have a really tough time moving forward because things are just like things that are interesting are going to be topical. And not everybody is going to be able to run things through such a fine filter that nothing is ever said with skepticism or without skepticism, I should say. By nature, we speak loosely, and I get it. Again, I'm not trying to shirk responsibility. Like I'm happy to own my blame in all of this, but if we don't turn attention to it, it never gets legs. Like nobody watched that fucking stream, man. It had like 300 concurrent viewers, and it was just something that was said in passing. And by the way, like it being said in passing, it was a long conversation between Phil and Brown Balla. If anybody blows it up, even though you're saying it's my credibility that gives it legs, Phil going on a 3-minute tirade about how he's heard this from multiple sources, but he's not corroborating it, is doing way more to put the thought in people's mind than just me saying one word.
No, I totally agree with you on that. Like they're even more culpable. I guess, the difference with those two and in you, of course, is like, you've done a great job sort of becoming a voice in the community where Phil, nobody really takes him seriously all that much. He just says stuff, and whoever, what was the Brown Ball? I don't really know this guy. So again, like just, part of what you get this. I'm not chastising you in any way. I totally understand where you're coming from, but you get this now that you do have a position, like someone like you, when this is why, like when I've had, one of my comments on the whole Robbie thing is like, unless you're 100% you have evidence, you don't call someone out on cheating or anything like that. And that's simply because I know that my voice, my words carry weight, and like yours do too now. So you're like one phrase of saying 100% to the poker community is probably like more credible than Helmuth and Brown Ball are just spewing nonsense.
That's my point, honestly. I just think that Berkey carries credibility way beyond Helmuth's words or Brown Balla's words, and so when it comes to streaming, I am a little more sensitive to it, specifically the integrity of streaming, because I'm participating in really big games. Like I did $1 million blast off with Queen 9. That's the hand we're talking about. That's real money. I don't want people thinking that was really like $100 bet or something, or that I had half of Patrick and I was trying to, give him $1 million of my, because I had over $1 million in chips. I gave him $1 million because I thought it was a better chance for us to pick up that 600,000 side bet. Like that kills what I'm doing. I'm doing something bigger than streaming. I'm trying to build a big company and a big brand. And so I'm really sensitive to the events that I participate in. I need the public to understand this shit's real. This is like reality TV,
I totally get that. Taking this one step further, assuming that we're kind of on the same page here now and we're good. With that in mind, how are you signing off on this HCL $1 million buy-in game? I mean, I understand that a lot's changed since the Jack 4 hand, but that report was very damning. There were a lot, and I do mean a lot, of failure points in their system. And most they've corrected, but this notion that it's somehow okay for Ryan to be in a room with God mode on while there's 10 to 15 million in play, it's dangerous, man. If something goes haywire here, streaming poker as we know it is going to collapse in a big way.
So I guess what I would say is that I have I admit that I'm in a different spot than a lot of people who participate in streaming. And what that means specifically in any game that I play in at Hustler, I'm going to set the lineup. And so the other players and the other 6 players that'll be at that table are all people that I'll put in that game. They'll all be people I approve to play with me. And I'll have a very, very, very high degree of confidence that they're people I play with, that there is not going to be any issue whether we were playing in my kitchen or on TV. And as it relates to Hustler, I think Ryan has a lot of integrity. I'm pretty sure, in my opinion, that the game will be on the up and up, and all games are. Was there ever cheating? I don't know. He said by his own words he thinks it's a 40% chance there was cheating.
I will say he did walk that back a lot, as much as since that comment. And that's one thing to realize is, when you're constantly videotaped, you make a comment and you give a quick, impulsive answer, and then you realize the implications of that. And that's kind of Ryan realized, the same thing Berkey realized by saying a percentage definitely messes with people's head in a particular situation.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I don't think that was helpful for him to do that. And but I would say that I care about myself and I care about the events that I participate in. And as it relates to that event, every player in that game with me will be people that I approve that are in that game.
So that's very fair. Sorry, just one quick counterpoint. That's very fair for your game, but it's 5 days long, and I don't know if you're playing in all 5. All of this stuff still applies to the games that you're not in. If something bad happens during the $1 Million Cash game, where you effectively hitched your wagon to them, it's not that you have to answer for it. Nobody's holding you responsible in that regard. But there is this level of vouching whenever high-profile players will sign up for something that is definitely not no risk and potentially greater risk than we would want it to be as compared to something like the $1 Million Cash game at Poker Go.
Yeah, I just think that I believe that Nick and Ryan are taking proper safeguards to ensure the game is going to be on the up and up. And I believe that. And if I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be there. And I'm just pointing out that, any game I participate in, I even have a higher level of certainty just because of but I do think that Nick and Ryan are taking all the steps they can, just like I think hopefully Doug and everyone who does streaming across the country, because we all have a lot at stake in making sure that these games, have integrity, and that's what this is all about. And I think that Nick and Ryan have been through the grill. I think that, they had people come in, and I think they probably made some changes to security, and I think that I do believe that their games are going to be, on the up and up, and I do think they've taken the right actions to make sure that happens, and and that's all I can ask for at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, so we had a little technical difficulty, Eric, and I appreciate all those words. But Mike the Mouth Matusow finally figured out how to use the Twitter space. He was trying to get on his computer, then his iPad. So, Mike, you've been practicing your game for me, buddy? You gotta hit the little mic in the bottom left corner to respond.
Okay, there we go. You hear me? All right. Yeah, I'm ready to fucking. I'm gonna kick your fucking ass, man.
Why'd you pick such a small amount? Why only 10K?
I don't know, because it's just I wanted to have fun with you, and it's just better off this way,
Okay.
But we can always, double some maybe. Who knows? So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I had reached out, like I was just telling. I had told Daniel like that we and you were going to be playing, and he goes, "Oh, I'm going to be on that card too," and he was going to be the main event. And so I kind of knew that him and Eric were going to be the main event before it was announced. But it was kind of like it was funny that I was just talking about it. And so I haven't played one-handed head up since I beat Phil in 2013. So that's 10 years. So,
wow. You in person have beaten Phil, and Daniel is 0-3. So. I should be learning from you guys, not Daniel.
I feel like I'm 0-50. I don't know. Is it only 3?
Well, you're probably also including all those bracelets you lost heads up and
that, and I lost to Doug, and I lost to Phil. Just the whole fucking spray of losing. That really definitely was difficult to stomach back to back to back. But
Yeah, going and laying back and sleeping on your pile of money must be so painful.
Well, I love the pain, apparently. Like, Eric Wasserson told me that. And I was like, no, I don't. Nobody loves the pain. That doesn't make any sense. And he's like, you love it or you wouldn't do it. And I was like, I don't know. I don't think I like the pain, but clearly based on results and the fact that I keep, showing up, some part of me must love the pain.
You're definitely not Twitter. No one will ever say that about you.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, that's the truth of the matter is like I don't know. I think Daniel would give up. Losing to Phil 3 times. The money is not even the issue. It's like the pain must have been just enormous. I couldn't even imagine.
Well, the thing that I made a mistake about doing in that match, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I would have just played the match for the stakes that they were and not made side action bets, it actually would have changed the way that I played a little bit. And probably shouldn't have, but part of it is I was laying pretty big prices because nobody would bet on Phil unless I laid close to 2-1. So part of my mindset is I cannot get it in a flip. Because if I
you were laying 2-1 for that structure.
I think it was after the first match, the one that I lost. People
you lost them all, so.
Well, the first match that I lost.
First match he dominated, though.
After the first match that I lost, the people that bet me the first time didn't want action on the second one. And the only way I could get some action to sort of recoup the losses was, to give them a little bit more vig and give them 1.65 or something like that.
Yeah, that's pretty tough to fade and that quick of a structure. Obviously it's the match you and Doug did, very different, that many hands, but shit, those are some long odds in that short of a match.
Yeah, we were talking no matter. I don't think anybody's in the way these things are structured, like Daniel's match done up with Eric or mine and yours, is more than $1.25. Do you? I don't think so, because
I would bet on Daniel $1.25 versus Eric. No offense to Eric, I think Daniel worked on his heads up game a lot. He's very
good. Well, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Makes sense.
Eric, looks like you got a taker if you want to bet more at plus 125.
I mean,
and then I can you and we can take Shaun out. How about this? Okay, nobody's listening, but what we'll do is I'll bet a lot with Shaun, and I'll dump you, and then we'll chop it.
It's got to be a lot. My definition of a lot is a lot.
Yeah, no, I'm afraid of what a number you're going to want to bet. So I'm already I better get some DMs from JMO and the crypto community to fucking back me in this side bet.
I feel like Daniel should be a 150 favorite, and I should get plus 150 with no vig.
Yeah, that's too long for me.
Who's your agent, Phil Ivey? Because that's what Phil Ivey would say.
Yeah.
If I swear to you, if Helmuth was going to play Ivey in basketball, and Ivey's very good at basketball, and Phil would say, I don't know if Phil Ivey, do you think you can beat him? He's like, I don't know, man. He sounds like he's pretty confident. But I'll tell you what, if he gives me a spot, I'll gamble with him. That sounds like you've been taking lessons from Phil.
Yeah, Phil was buttering me up last World Series about how high he thought my POI equity was. And I just know he's talking me up, trying to hope I believe him, and then he'll bet against me. And I'm like, Phil, come on. I know you don't believe those numbers, and those are ridiculous. So I was like, I know your hustle. I've heard enough stories about you. You work your side of the street, buddy. I'll just do my own stuff.
I mean,
go ahead.
I'm available at 150. If anybody wants to give that to me, I feel like I have a chance.
Fuck, I'll take you at 150. I'll be the two-way market. I'll take Daniel at 125 and you at 150. If anyone wants either side.
I was just thinking they were giving plus 170 to Phil in every one of his matches, and they think I'm just fucking a nobody anymore. So I probably could get 190 or 190, but I think everybody. 150, 40, or 30. But, that's
you gotta try to speak into your mic, Mike.
Yeah, I'm speaking on my phone. Mm-hmm. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed when it comes to mud.
Hey, you got a YouTube channel, you have a podcast, you must be doing something right with technology.
But I don't do anything. My editor, Danny Egelhoff, does everything. Everything.
Yeah, when I was looking at possibly an editor for my stuff, because I'm going to do Daniel style vlogs during the World Series and some other content, I was going to think about approaching him, but I know you've had him for a while, so I think I got someone else who actually has a nice connection to Eric. By the way, apparently his brother is your real estate guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he just found out that recently. For his company he's working for, because he had to reach out to you about something, and he was like, "This is how small the world is." My brother knows nothing about poker, and he did some real estate deals with Eric in Vegas, and now he uses them everywhere.
Huh. Yeah.
Do you
The person I think it is, I've used him for about 10 years. Yeah. Good friend of mine.
are you have a personal chef or somebody going to be making you all your food for the World Series, Shaun?
So I'm reaching out to I'm going to reach out to Foodie Fit. I hear their meals are pretty good, and communicate with them and say, I want you to talk to my nutritionist and do the deep diet. So if people want to do the meals that I do every single day during the World Series, that's going to be on the menu in that aspect. I think that'd be a cool concept. I mean, whoever I've used for food at the World Series, a lot of people tend to follow me on that. So I would love to, whoever works with me to get a lot of business. And then if people want to be healthy, now that I'm the healthy guy, which is the weirdest thing for me, that this is my new image. I'm not the asshole slow roller. I'm now this fucking positivity health guy.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Your life is going to change so much. Like even though I'm not like in great shape, but I lost 40 pounds. I'm down to like 205. I was like 245, and the truth of the matter is like, and Daniel eats really good. Also, I mean, like he'll tell you, like, yeah, if you eat good and you're working out. I mean, I can't even imagine what your poker game is going to be like. What it's going to
I
be.
don't think it's going to be better. I think I'm one of those people who are going to be worse. Like, I've done
No
too many
way.
years of playing the same way. I don't imagine I'm going to be better this summer. And also because I've been playing less because of the challenge, because I've been working out so much more, way less hours playing cash games than I have other years.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if like did you ever like late on day 2 or day 3? I mean, I know your mind works at a level like higher than probably 99.9% of all poker players. But do you ever like feel like you made a mistake late when you were tired or no?
No, I think the end of the day, I actually make more mistakes at the beginning of the day when I'm not zoned in. Like, I think I'm one of those, like, if we get to play 24 hours straight, I might be playing against 5 people better than me, but at hour 24, I just hit another gear where they start trailing off. And I think that's one of the reasons I get so well at the World Series and so many chips late at night is because I'm hitting peak form at the end of the
Well,
night when most people are trailing off on their attention span, what they're paying attention to, and their effort level.
that makes sense. Like I noticed the last few years I was really struggling deep into day 2 or day 3, and it was mostly because the pain levels were getting bad. So I'm having a thoracic like nerve block on the 12th of May to block some of the nerve pain that I get down my leg, I'm hoping that is going to improve it because in 16 and 17, I didn't whittle at all. I just kind of I made a lot of final tables, but just couldn't, get over the hump. But the last few years, I found myself when you play limit events, if you make one, you give away 2 big bets or 3 big bets. I mean, that's the difference between survival and moving up,
For sure. I mean, I've always talked highly of your game in that spot. You're one of the people I've learned some tricks from that I've incorporated in my own tournament game over the years. And I don't go as tight as you, but there are some folds that you make that I agree with that other people don't.
Right. And listen, it's like I said, Daniel and you both said, don't worry about your limit game, Mike. It's like riding a bike, which is, I'm looking forward to that. But like my no limit game, I'm not trying to brag, but I mean, I honestly believe I'm playing better no limit than I did in '05. But I also
But
put a lot of
that
work
isn't
in.
hard either. Everyone sucked at no limit at 5.
I understand. I know, but I still like. I feel like I've moved to a different. In other words, I didn't just sit back and like say, "Oh, I'm great at no limit," blah, like Phil does. I kind of worked on it. I talked to Daniel about some things. I talked to Chance about some things. I feel like I just needed to. I'm just real close. When you feel like you're real close, but you're just missing something real small. So it's something that I think I figured out, and but no limit, at the World Series takes a lot out of you. Where the limits, you kind of like you could watch the NBA finals, the NHL finals, and when you're watching playing the no limit, you just can't. You got to focus on everyone. You know how that is.
Yeah, definitely the live tells are more valuable in No Limit. They're more frequent. And one showdown, you can extrapolate a lot more information, while Limit, 99% of the hands are pretty standard from both parties. So there's not as much information to gain, as well as you have history with those players playing with them for the last 10, 15 years.
Right.
Like, when Greg Rich is at your table, you should know how he's going to play. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to watch when he's in a pot and learn something new about him. Knowing the player pool is massive.
Yeah, it really is. And the thing is like, a lot of times, like when like the World Series, like I look, like when Daniel says he looks forward to the grind, I look forward to the grind. I look forward to like playing with those 200 people where we know pretty much 130 of everybody's how each one of them plays, and it's kind of like a family atmosphere. And what people don't realize is before the World Series got real big, and you came in right around 2005, if I'm not mistaken, Shaun. But like in the 2000, Daniel, when I met Daniel in 98, so like 98 through like 2005, when it was at the Horseshoe, right? It was like pretty much until the moneymaker effect, like the first, like it's family affair. So everybody would go down, and everybody knew everybody, and it was like a real good camaraderie. And that's what like the 10K and higher championships events are, and it really is fun. And unfortunately, like when I missed the Poker Go mixed games, I came and I played the dealer's choice, and I wish I would have played more, because like I was having a lot of fun. I go, Daniel, this is a lot of fun. He goes, boy, you missed out on so much fun. And I missed, I missed the needling. Like it's fun to needle the people that and like, and even the good players that when they play a hand bag, just like, nice hand, Mike, or you played that one great, Shaun, or you played that one, what I'm saying? It's just fun,
You talk about the old World Series, and I reminisce because it was fun and it was different. And a lot of the points you bring up are true. And, it's a lot more corporate now, and you've got these thousands and thousands of player fields. And a lot of the people listening might not know this, but the World Series of Poker, when I played it back then, there was one tournament a day. It started at noon. Noon, Monday, stud 8. Tuesday, limit hold'em. Wednesday, a different event, started at noon. And if you showed up at 12:15, right,
You're dead.
you can't get in. You couldn't get, like, once the first card is off the deck, you couldn't. There was no late reg. There was no anything. Like, if you bought in before, like Helmuth might do, and this is what he used to do. He would buy in the night before and then show up 2-3 hours late, which he can, but he'd blind off his stack. And like that was the norm. And obviously we've evolved towards late reg and all these kind of things. And I know some people have some pushback about, that whole concept and stuff. But part of the reason it's necessary now too is because of all the overlapping events. Back then, there was no need to late reg. You played, it was 2-day events. You play day one, you play the tournament, you make the final table. The next day, you can't play the next event. Now, we just have a lot of people like Shaun and myself who are jumping from, tournament to tournament to tournament. So it kind of lends itself towards like a need for it. I don't
Did
love
anyone
re-entry.
multi-table in those days?
What's that?
Did anyone multi-table when they made the final
Nobody. No, because like you'd be at a final table. Like, the first tournament started at the tournament started at noon. You'd get down to final table, whatever time, come back the next day at noon, and you play. You can't jump into the next. I mean, theoretically you could, but I don't know of anyone. I don't remember anyone back then dropping the stack in like the early 2000s.
No.
Hey, Shaun.
Yo.
Do I get the same bet on the Player of the Year bet on you and Daniel again this year?
What was the price? Was it 6-5? I forget.
It was 5-1.
Oh, on me and Daniel winning POY versus the field?
Yeah.
I thought it was 3-1.
I'd go back in the chat. I think it was 5-1 because I remember like I had already spent.
It was definitely not 5-1. It was like 7. It was something where we had to be 30% to be break even. So it might have been 2-1.
No.
I think you're wrong. You bet more with Dan, but I'm interested. I think this actually the new schedule. I've talked to Daniel about this is actually worse for him, for myself, for POY. It definitely lowers my percentage a point or two because I won't be able to multi-table and I will have more overlap than I normally would have.
Yeah, you're right in that, and it was not at all part of my thinking with the change. The change was based on like a lot of feedback from people, but like for you specifically, because you would play the 10 a.m. and then jump into the other one after, yeah, it'll probably make it a little more difficult for you. Sorry.
It's okay. It actually it's better. I told you this, and I'll say it publicly. Once I booked this bed, I was like, this ending at 1 a.m. is gonna be so much better for me because I'm talking about doing the working out after the sessions, and at 3:30 I might not have as much energy, but at 1:30 I'm gonna be primed and ready to go to the gym and have some fun.
I can't tell you how many people that I spoke to, the mixed game community, who all like here's the thing. We play that day one, and we all sort of kind of agree that the first couple levels are whatever. You can show up, it's fine, build a stack, but they're like not super crucial. But in order to play those early levels, we'd have to get home at like 3 o'clock in the morning and live like vampires and unhealthy. And there's people who play in those events, like Mark Gregorich, who has children, Dan Shack, who has to wake up, and check the markets and stuff like that. So this is going to allow, like, for the 2 p.m. events, you're going to be done by 11. That's going to allow people to live much more, quote unquote, like normal life. And I think it's going to be really popular. Alan Kessler actually suggested a change that we used. Instead of eliminating the first 2 levels, it just made the first 6 levels 40 minutes rather than an hour. So it'll still finish exactly as it did, before, and the same exact, day 2 start, except it's 2 less hours on day 1. And like after 7 weeks of grind, I think, we're all of us who grind and do the grind are going to really cherish that time and that ability to wake up at somewhat of a reasonable hour.
Well,
Daniel,
yeah.
Daniel, did you say that the 10Ks are going to end at 11 p.m.?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they moved the start times back from 3 p.m. and 11 to like 2 and 10 now. So that's already an hour off. And now we're playing 2 less hours total. So instead of playing from 2 to 2 or 2 to 1, we're playing from 2 to 11.
And will you be able to max late reg on when will
day 2? The max late reg doesn't change at all. So basically, from level 7 on, it's exactly the same event, except and the max late reg will be at start of day 2, and you get the exact same blinds. It's the same structure going forward from day 2. The only change we made was essentially shaving 20 minutes off the first 6 levels, and that allows us to get done 2 hours earlier.
But the early finish is going to it's going to drastically change the amount of events that the volume guys are going to be able to play, right?
I don't think so. I don't think it's going to drastically change that because, like I said, the start of day 2 late reg is exactly the same, right? I guess like the only people that it affects somewhat are the people, like you said, like Shaun, who's going to play like the $400 fucking deep stack thing, and then drop a stack and then wants to play like the 25K PLO that he chose to skip day 1 to play a $400 deep stack for or whatever. For people like that, but that's a very small group of people. I don't think it's going to curb entries. I think hopefully what I'm trying to get to is some people who I know stopped playing. Like they used to, like the Feduniaks, Alan Cunningham, people like that. They quit playing those tournaments because they're early risers. They like to get up early and live a normal life. And they didn't want to play if it was going to be done at 2, 3 in the morning. So I don't know that they're going to play a full schedule or it's going to increase entries necessarily, but I'm hopeful of that. But overall, I think if we value our time and our lives, shaving 20 minutes off those what we all consider mostly meaningful levels is a pretty good compromise.
I also think that the big change I want to talk to Jack about next year is I love those changes are okay for day 1, but I think the day 2 90-minute levels is so unnecessary. I think the Poker Go showed the mixed community liked the turbo-y structure, and I know that how he feels about the World Championships, but 10Ks aren't what they used to be, and so let's make them 3 days where you're at the final table going to day 3 or possibly even like 6-handed.
I agree with you 1,000%. 1,000%. And let me tell you, though, the reason, because I want to push for that too in a way, and I'll explain what I want to do to it. But I don't think it's good to put too much massive change in 1 year because then people start to bitch and complain. The Kesslers of the world, oh, there's no more play in this thing, So making subtle changes, like, for example, this year, we're shaving 2 hours off day 1. What I'd like to see next year is just we start with 2 levels of 90 minutes on day 2, gives the late reggers a chance to play, then switch to hour levels. So essentially we'd save another 2 hours because you're right. Those 10Ks, they bleed into a 4th day. They're listed often as 3-day events, but it's always the case where you end up like 3-handed or something because,
Yeah,
you know,
the
you
split
just don't
pot
finish
ones
it
are
in
going
time.
to be 4 days, like for sure. That happens every time.
Right. And you're right. I think the test market was the Poker Go mix games, and it was 40-minute levels. You play day one, final tables day two. People loved it. Nobody felt like it was a crapshoot, because the thing that people don't realize with limit tournaments is you're going to get to a place where the average stack is like 10 to 15 big bets. That has to happen, and it will happen, right? Now, what we wasted too much time doing with a lot of structures in the past is starting people with like 100 big bets or 80 big bets. It's like pointless, you know, because it's going to come down to, you know, a 10-15 average. So shaving that time off, and I agree with you, the 90s were sort of a response to speeding it up, because we did speed up day one from when it used to be years ago. We continue to do that little by little by little, you know, but you like with the Kesslers and stuff, you want to make sure that they're incremental rather than a massive overhaul. But I'm with you 100% on that in terms of a subtle change for day two. How about we just do the first two levels as 90 minutes and then an hour for the rest of the way?
Yeah, that seems great for the day two reg guys. I think that's a great solution that will definitely guarantee all of them being 3-day tournaments. I'm also excited, by the way. I've had like 4 different people reach out to me who've never had a 25K fantasy team. I think we're going to do some big numbers this year on that.
Yeah, so for those that are interested, I'm going to start reaching out to people about this week, because I am starting to get a little concerned that it'll be too big, right? Because we've had 16 people last year. I think that was a record. And as you said, there's a lot of people showing interest. So there may be a 20-team cap. I don't know. I'll ask the people what they think, because obviously if you start to, you know, add too many entries, the whole thing will take longer, and people will be really scrounging for, sleepers to pick. But I think there's plenty of players. It'll widen the group of people that can be chosen. But that event is going to happen on May 29th, 7 p.m. Reach out to me if you do want a team, or if you want more information. You can go to 25kfantasy.com for the rules and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know how big Gregorich's is and how long his take? So we have an idea, because I know he gets more teams than we do.
Well, we had 16 last year. I don't know that he had more than 16. But you can check on the website, too, because the 25K fantasy guy, he tracks David Baker's pool, which lets everybody have a chance to use the point totals that were used for players and create their own teams, and you can enter as many as you like. And Mark Gregorich also runs his $2,500 buy-in, and he tracks it all on the site. So if you go there, you can probably see how many Mark had last year.
Yeah, I actually hired him to build the website for me for one of my ideas. So I'm happy. He's a good guy, and I know he does good work.
Yeah, and he does it for free, by the way. For those this guy who created the site, he puts in so much work. He inputs the data every night, and it's really difficult when you talk about the online events, because the online events are not real name. So he has to wait a few days to transfer it over, and there's often mistakes when they do that. There was a mistake a few years ago, Shaun. I don't know if you fucking remember.
Yeah. Damn it, you beat me to it. I had a good needle ready.
I mean, I literally on the plane, and I was about to get on the plane. I see Shaun Deeb, and someone says he finished fucking 10th. I'm like, you're kidding me. You're kidding me. Shaun fucking punted. I won player of the year. Woohoo! I got the last laugh. And then all of a sudden, 5 days later, it's like, yeah, so we got some news for you. Robert Campbell won. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that was. I don't know who that was more painful for, you or me, but
honestly, I
for
felt.
me.
I'll tell you what the most painful thing for me was. It wasn't that, because listen, if the points were wrong, the points were wrong. Like, he won, I get it. It screwed you, because you would have known, you would have played differently. Myself as well, because I was trying to ladder like to 129th in that last event or something stupid. So we both had little moments where I played tighter in spots. But what really upset me the most was a couple people like questioning my integrity on a fucking event that was for free. The prize for player of the year is $0, right? It's like you get your picture up, right? And there was Norman Chad did a video saying, I find it really, 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 really hard to believe that Daniel didn't know that the points were wrong. And I'm like, well, that's a dick thing to say, because now you're essentially saying, that I cheated. And I did a vlog every single day. Every single day I did a vlog where we posted the point total, right? It was on the thing. Not a single person in the world knew. Kevmath didn't know. Not till months later did some Russian who had side bets go through it. He fine-tooth combed it, and he found the error from some online event or whatever. And people are like, oh, you telling me you don't know how many times you cashed? You know what it's like. You're playing 3 events in a day and an online event or 2 or 3. You cash. I don't know sometimes. Like, I get lost in it.
Yeah,
and I
people
go to the
World
website.
Series. Yeah, go ahead.
I go to the website to find the totals. In addition to that, in my vlog, there was a point where I go up to Robert Campbell and tell him you should drop a stack in the PLO. Like if I was trying to scam him and cheat him, like I wouldn't, do that. And the fact is, it's like it was a really low blow to me because, like, I've never been accused of cheating or anything shady in any way, shape, or form, integrity wise. But like to be accused of like knowing that I cheated and stole a like prize for $0, I don't know if that's worse or better than stealing money, but it was pretty upsetting at the time, honestly.
Well, I think, Eric alluded to that, and I've had a couple issues in my fast where integrity is called in question. And when you consider yourself a high integrity person with, who's never had anything go against you, whenever people question that, no matter how wrong they are, it still hurts because we're not used to it. The scumbags of the world are used to everyone calling them a piece of shit. They're like, yeah, whatever. It doesn't bother them. It's the high integrity people that get really offended when they get called out in a spot that it's very obvious to them that clearly nothing shady was happening.
Yeah, no question. It's like you're right, because if someone's used to being called a scammer, it's like whatever. But for me, like I said, I've been in this game for 30 years, and like I have a good reputation with borrowing, with loaning, with never having any issues like that. And so to just kind of throw that out there, and it was like so, and I ended up like sending them evidence, like all the evidence I could possibly have to make my case that I couldn't have known or I didn't know. And just to have it out there, like, you know what? For him to say, I guess we'll never know. It's like, you know what? We will know. You know why? Because I fucking said so. And I'm not going to like, you know what I mean? Like that's just sort of questioning whether, like, I would never question you, Shaun. And we haven't had the best relationship in the last 20 years ever, but I would not ever, if you, one, like in the same way, have said, oh yeah, Shaun, he probably fucking knew. I would never do that to my worst enemy.
Well, you did say, to be fair, I know we were heated that night, but you didn't want to do a POY bet because you thought I would do something shady.
Oh, I did. I'm sorry. I apologize. You're right. We were. I
mean, that night, what was said, like we all hashed it out. Me and you, like whatever. We've moved past it. We both were very, very heated, defending, our families, our wives, everything, and shit was said. So yeah. So I'm glad that was taken back, and obviously, like, I knew that I was going to battle you for the rest of my career. We're always going to be in poker. We're always going to be competing for those leaderboards because no one can put in the volume we can with a skill level combination. It's just too fucking hard.
Yeah. And just for the record, the tweet that you sent about 2 years, we're having our 3-year anniversary May 17th. So eat some of that.
I'm not eating much of anything right now.
That's true. You're on a fucking diet.
Shaun, give us an update on the workout, the food, the weight, the morale.
Part of the morale is great. I was a little down this week because my weight actually stayed 291 for like 4 or 5 straight days. And then I woke up today and I was 287. So I knew there's some weird stuff with your body, and there's just going to be some days where all of a sudden the scale drops a few pounds and it's going to plateau and then go down. So I'm super motivated. I'm actually planning on doing my Peloton workout during this space, but it's been so enjoyable. But I've been pacing during this whole conversation, get a few calories in. So I'm doing every little thing, and I think you're going to see me doing some jumping jacks, doing some push-ups in between hands at the table. It's going to be weird, but it's going to be fun.
If you were to set a goal for the end of the World Series, like, are you trying to continue? I mean, I know you're going to keep your same food routine, the nutrition that you've been doing for the past month, but are you trying to lose during the World Series the way as if you weren't playing, or are you focusing, like, where are you focusing more on during the World Series, your weight or your poker?
I think I'm going to try to do equal. I'm going to be balanced for the first time ever in my career. I've almost never gained weight during the World Series, even eating whatever I want, because the hours I play, all the walking from room to room, the multi-tabling, it's difficult to get enough calories in compared to what I burn. And also playing poker 16 hours a day, I'm burning higher calorie rate than sitting at home doing nothing. Like, using your brain does burn some extra calories. So I think I'm going to be fine weight-wise. If anything, I might be a little worried that I lose too much lean muscle mass. So that's why the lifting is going to be so important to be doing during the World Series and getting enough protein.
So do you think that, like, you said you're 287, do you think that like 250 is possible by the end of the World Series?
I think that's easily doable.
Okay, good. That's good to hear. I have a lot riding on this.
Not as much as me, buddy.
Ryan Lang's trying to speak. He said,
I'll let him in.
Yeah, he said to add him as a speaker.
Yeah, I see a lot of people requested to speak. We're going to start taking some people in shortly, letting you guys ask some questions. If Daniel has some more time, Mike has some more time. So go ahead, Ryan, you're in.
Yeah, I was just going to let you know the Mark Gregorich Fantasy League had 19 teams, and the only reason I know that is because I finished in 19th. And
How long did the draft take? Do you
yeah,
remember?
it was quick. That's what I want to let you guys know. It was quick. We had barbecue afterwards. It was great. And I see Eric Baldwin in here listening, and he got us a whole 12 points. So I just want to shout him out for those 12 points. Thank you, Eric.
Was he their high score of your team?
No. But also, as far as the weight loss goes, Shaun, so I've lost 60 pounds 3 times in my life. So I'm pretty familiar with what you're going through. When the scale isn't cooperating, don't worry about it, because you're going to have those days where it's just going to like stay the same, and then you're going to wake up one morning and it's water weight, right? So the water weight's going to fluctuate. So yeah, I mean, just like don't let those days bother you, because you're gonna have that day you wake up and you lost 4 pounds.
I actually have a YouTube video where I'm talking about that specifically, and I think my tournament mindset is ideal for this bet because it's such a long-term bet that I don't care about short-term results. No. I know that if I keep doing what I got to do, the end result will come, and that's kind of like it's not bothering me. But I'm always worried I'm doing the wrong thing. So if I have a week where I don't lose weight, the nutritionist is changing a few things in case something was slightly off.
Right.
Shaun, when do we get another YouTube live look at your journey?
So I have an episode ready. In the last 2 days, I've been struggling to convert it to my computer. So I'm switching the editor and giving him YouTube control. So that should be up hopefully tomorrow. We're going to figure it out. I was supposed to take care of it tonight, but I decided to do this space instead. But yeah, I think I'm going to start doing bi-weekly videos is the plan. Definitely taking more videos. I think I'm hiring a new what's called a predator. So that's hopefully going to be cool, where he's going to hopefully film me during the whole World Series, do some of the interview ideas I have during the World Series to get some other people who are healthy or want to be healthy. I want to get a whole vast of people, from the biggest names to, up and comers, or to people who just like are successful businessmen who are also health conscious or want to be health conscious. I think I want to cover the whole spectrum, because you don't want to only do fucking fit, healthy people who've never struggled or never dealt with the difficulty that, someone who's like Ryan, who's gone through 60 pounds 3 times, he can probably give a lot more understanding to what has worked, what hasn't, and why he regressed so frequently, and, what was the new motivation.
Yeah, and I'm in to help with any of that. I'm also going to be doing. I'm going to try and do 10 push-ups every single break. So if you're looking for some kind of little side bet motivation to keep you doing stuff while you're playing, since we're going to be sitting so often, we can do some little side bet. If like I don't do my 10 push-ups, you don't do your 10 jumping jacks or whatever it is on breaks, and we like anyone can catch us slipping and tell the other person, and it's like $100 per missed break or whatever it is. Anything like that you want to do, I'm in.
Well, I mean, I'm playing 3 times as many events as you, so you better lay a price on it.
No.
I'm multi-tabling, and I'm playing 2 events. I got different breaks, and I'm going between tournaments. Like, I'm
Shaun,
down for something like that, but it's going to be tough.
I'm winning Player of the Year this year. I'm playing just as many tournaments as you.
Really?
Yeah.
You want to side bet who plays more events?
No. You'll win that side bet, because you're gonna punt off a bunch, and I'm not gonna play the 25 and 50Ks unless things are going really well. But we can do a little side bet for Player of the Year. That goes for Daniel and Josh as well.
Oh, wow. You got two people your dog and one person your favorite versus. Good job.
Daniel, you're gonna let him talk about you like that?
I was like, I'm annoyed that Ryan fucking just said what he said.
I know. I almost stopped him. I wish I had mute power.
I was gonna kick him off. If I was the host, I would have stopped him mid sentence and not let him continue speaking.
Hey, I'm no dankness. I let people finish their thoughts. I've been booted more off dankness spaces than anyone. So I let people go on the mic a little bit longer. A little looser trigger finger. Only person I muted was Matusow. So we kept getting feedback from him when you were talking.
Yeah, sorry about that.
we love you, Mikey.
Yeah, I remember when Ryan Lang was made all those deep runs, and when he was, he played just when he played the 50K and half the games he had never played before, and he did really really well, and I remember telling everybody, and I really respected it, and he said, next year, he goes, I got tired against the best players in the world and I made some mistakes. He goes, I'm going to get myself in shape so this doesn't happen again. And I was just wondering, because I haven't, talked to him or seen him since, like, has he gotten himself in really good shape since then, or what's been going on with you, Ryan?
No, not at all. Actually, so last year I took the year off from playing poker professionally. I had another endeavor that I was working on, and I didn't play a full schedule as well. And no, my fitness goals just kind of went out the window, and I'm just now like starting to get back in shape and hoping to keep it going like through the World Series. I always get in shape for the World Series, and then I slip afterwards. So I'm gonna try and keep this one going.
Oh, that's really good to hear. Like even like talking with Phil, I try like, he's been making a lot of mistakes on these streams lately. And I know a lot of it he's gotten tired or whatever. But, I try and tell him, I'm like, you're not a kid. You're 58 years old. You're playing against like really good players. You can't just show up and say, I'm Phil Hellmuth and just, play great. And, a lot of times, we get in a lot of fights about it. And I always, he gets mad when I bring this up, but I always say, Daniel's working with a trainer. He's working out 2 hours a day. He's getting himself like in the best shape he can to put in the long grind. And he gets mad when I say that.
Yeah, Daniel's clearly he's doing it right as far as knowing how to compete and how to stay up with all the young guys. Um, I've actually I've measured my I guess my ability, like my brain, uh, when I'm fit and not fit. I play a lot of chess on my phone, and I keep track of my ELO, which is if you're not familiar with chess, it's like your rating. And every single time that I decide to cut out, beer and shitty food, and I start to get in shape and I'm exercising, my ELO spikes by like anywhere from 100 to 200 points.
What
So
is your current
I
rating?
mean,
Because I've been playing a lot of chess this last year. I suck though.
yeah, I mean, I'm not good. I play recreationally. I think it's just a great way to keep my brain busy when I'm bored. But I mean, there's just a clear, obvious difference. Like the healthier your body, the healthier your brain, the more focused, the sharper you're going to be. So I don't know, Shaun, you might be even better than you have been in the past. That'll be scary.
That's really scary for all you guys. You guys are fucked.
I agree. I tell people all the time, and people could argue with me that there. I think you're a once in a generation talent. I think I go over the years. Daniel's a great once in a generation talent. Phil Ivey, you. Um, there's some other up
You
and
better say
coming.
Helmuth as well, or else he's gonna be real mad at you.
He's a once in his generation talent. You know what I mean? I I think he's a great tournament player, and he's gotten better on the mixed games because I've helped him because of him being one of my top three closest friends. He wants to go down in the public eye as one of the best players of all time, and I told him, no limit hold'em is not going to be you winning more bracelets. It's going to be learning the mixed games, and I've spent a lot of time with him, and he final tabled 7 different games and in 2021 and he gave me a lot of credit for it, and I did help him a lot. So
Yeah, nothing was better than when Helmuth would come play cash games with us a couple of years ago. But he does. I don't even play them anymore, so I could only imagine drunk Phil says was the best.
yeah, I mean, I don't understand like Phil when he plays cash games and when he plays tournaments. I don't understand like sometimes when he does the things he does, and then he gets mad at me when I yell at him for it. But you know how it is. I'm stubborn. He's stubborn. Daniel's stubborn. We're all stubborn. Just
All right, Ryan. I'm gonna. If you have any other questions, you just kicked yourself out. Perfect. I'm gonna let Danielle up here, one of my favorite dealers, who we're excited she's coming back to the World Series. Hey, Danielle, how are you?
Hey, Shaun, how are you?
Good.
Good. I had a question for you. You mentioned that brain power, like increased brain power, burns more calories. Do you think that you could
Yes.
use enough brain cells to complete this challenge under time? Like if it was just strictly your brain power?
Yes, if I no, because I think the lean muscle mass, like I could lose 100 pounds doing that, but I would just eat no calories. But you have to lift because of the way the bed is
No, but
structured.
this is
That it
no,
just
but this
wouldn't.
is just brain power. Like you can't do anything else.
Yeah, no, I could not win the bet.
You know I'm just trolling you, right?
I don't know.
It's like, of course I'm trolling.
Clearly, I've burned a lot of calories doing something over the years.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay. Well, how's your weight loss bet going so far? Is it going well?
I'm very happy with my progress. I get another DEXA scan in a couple weeks, and hopefully that shows some more muscle growth and continue losing the fat.
Good. I'm glad. Good for you, buddy.
All right, we're gonna get a World Series legend up here, Rigsby, the one and only.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Oh, Rigsby, let me try to get something else up here. That's yours. What's up, buddy? You got a question for somebody? That's yours.
Oh shit! What's going on, guys?
Hey,
I'm just
you
at
requested
work,
to
man.
speak, so
Don't really have a question. Just wanted to say you guys are a bunch of legends in here. Daniel, Shaun, Matusow, some of my favorite people of all time. Just wanted to say what's up. Don't really have a question. Didn't think I'd get called in, but thanks for letting me talk, man.
all right, man. Don't forget about Josh Arieh. You
Oh
know, he
yeah,
has
that's a
won 4
legend too, man.
players.
But I do have some. I have some low key news I could break about the Hustler. I don't know if you guys are interested about the Hustler Casino shit. Keating will be in that game. All right, peace.
No surprise there. I think Doug is going to be a great addition to that lineup. I wanted to ask Persons actually was in here if he was going to include Doug in one of his tables. So I think Doug and Persson Doug will play some hands and be some fun, and hopefully he gets to play a few days. Hey, Greg, you got a question?
No, not really. I just wanted to. I looked away for 2 seconds, and I looked at the post, and I came back, and you lost your entire notoriety audience. You know, like Daniel, everyone. They all just left. I mean, all we got left is Mike and Veronica.
Oh, that happens.
Yeah. Well, what happened?
I don't know. Maybe they didn't enjoy the conversation.
The Laker game's going on. That's what's happening.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on for sure. Yeah, don't worry. I've been listening for 2 hours now, you know, and I've listened to way too much of this shit over the last 3 weeks. So what do we want to talk about now that they're gone?
I mean, we're just going to talk about the World Series, prop bets, high
World
stakes
Series
pool.
of prop bets. I don't care. I really don't care. I'm an Australian. I'm in Australia. I'm a guy. I'm one of the millions of viewers that are out there that consume poker content, but yet, you know, it was very evident through this whole space. You know, Persson had a few words to say, like, "Oh yeah, Maverick Gaming. Oh yeah, I'm rich," and it fucking paled in comparison to what Berkey was saying. And then, I mean, it just, Negreanu was there. That was amazing, insightful, amazing stuff to watch, you know. And we could all just we were all privy to it. And I know. And now here we found ourselves, and I don't know what happened from between now and 5 minutes ago that they were all here and now they're not.
All right. Well, thank you for your comments. Hope you enjoy the content from us over the next few years, and stay a poker fan. We appreciate it.
Righto, mate. See ya.
What's up, Nicola?
Wow, I had no idea I was going to get called on, but
I just started getting into poker, and I'm a big fan of you guys' work. Is Daniel in here?
He is here. He might have left his phone, but he's still up here.
All right. And what's the bet you got going on right now?
I have 14 months to get to 17% body fat.
7.
I got 10-1 by Bill Perkins to win $1 million.
To win $1 million. Wow. Wow, that's crazy. Good luck on that. And are you playing the main event?
Yes, I will be playing the main event and every other World Series event, pretty much.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you for your question. Hello, Trey.
Go ahead.
You gonna say something, Mikey?
Yeah, I was just gonna chime in on something you said earlier about the 10Ks going back to like an hour. I mean, I kind of agreed. Like at first, when we moved this day 2s to 2 hours, I thought it was a great idea, and then I realized these days going into day 4. And the truth of the matter is everybody that plays them are really top players, and at the hour-long levels, I mean, nothing really changes, And I think Daniel and you guys are correct of making just the whole tournament and go back to hours. I think
not the whole tournament yet, right? But listen, I think we all agree. Everybody who plays these things, like if we ask people, what is the optimal amount of days to play this tournament? I think every single person will say 3, right? So now it's our job to figure out how do we want those 3 days to look, right? Where we guarantee there's still play and it's not a complete crapshoot and stupid. But at the same time, we don't run into a 4th day as often as we did because the majority of them ran into a 4th day. So it's as simple as we have to find places to cut, right? And cutting the first 2 hours, I think is great. And the next step, once people get accustomed to that, used to that, and like that, is we continue to push for maybe another an hour to 2 on day 2. And then we go from there. And then we might just have perfection, right? Like just the sweet spot with the number of players that we have.
Yeah. Question?
Yeah, so this is for Shaun. So I've struggled with weight loss personally for probably my whole life. I'm only 23 years old, well overweight. I mean, I saw your tweets and it kind of inspired me personally to lose some weight. So what is like your key to sticking with this process outside of the side bet that y'all have going?
It's just recognizing that anytime you slip up, it's going to set you back, whether it's emotionally, on your results. So you really just have to accept the long-term goal that you have and work towards that every single day. There's no quitting. There's no giving up. Every day you push yourself a little bit harder in the gym, get a little bit better workout. When you feel like you're completely gassed, do a couple extra minutes. And I think you'll realize you get over that hump each workout where, yesterday I worked out and I wanted to quit halfway through. I was exhausted. I was on not a lot of sleep, but I finished the workout and I felt fucking exhausted and totally gassed. But I know that was what I have to do is I need to push through where originally I want to say, okay, this is too hard for me and go that extra step every single workout. And then I'm going to get the results that I want.
Okay. So do you as far as workouts go, how long, what kind of workouts do you do? And how long do you do them?
So obviously mine's going to be more aggressive than most people should be doing because of the conditions I'm in. But I really enjoy this 30 minutes of cardio in the morning, lifting 3 days on, 1 day off for about an hour and a half, where there's a lot of cardio built into that, as well as doing cardio at night before bed. And I think if you spread out your workouts instead of trying to do like a big block, as long as your schedule allows it, I think you have better results and more energy for all of them by splitting them up throughout the day.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it. You all have a great night.
Nito, you're in the booth. What do you got for us? Nito, you're missing your window.
Hello.
Hey, buddy.
Hey. Hi, Shaun. I've been listening to your space for the last couple of hours. I'm actually connected from India. Just wanted to say I've been watching you guys for 20 years almost. I mean, Daniel for so long, and just wanted to say thank you. And also in terms of how you guys have, I think, come a long way from a or of a dicey relationship before. It's really great to see both of you, I mean, be so civil and friendly together. So just wanted to, I'm a little nervous, but I just wanted to say thank you. And just wanted to say hi to Daniel as well.
Hello there. Yeah. Indian people, by far, of any culture I've ever met, consistently the nicest, most humble people in the world. And that's just my opinion. I'm not saying it as a fact, but I appreciate all the love from India. Thank you.
And they probably make some good vegan food for you too.
They
Yeah.
do, absolutely. But really, genuinely speaking, I've always had like the best interactions with Indian people.
Thank you so much,
I
Shaun and
agree.
Daniel. Thank you.
All right, have a great day, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you know, like touching on what he just kind of said, like it's kind of like what I kind of tweeted out recently is like, you know, like Twitter is such a toxic space, and when I started seeing like poker Twitter get this toxic as regular Twitter, you know, and I tweeted out like we could be better. Like we're a small group, knit group, and as much as we have competitive, you know, against each other, you know, we're all going to play together for years to come, and it just is so much better when everybody, you know, gets along. Is it okay to call people out? But you know, I kind of felt the piling on Berkey was a little bit like really hard, and I just think that it is great that you and Daniel are getting along, because I do remember when he was first getting married and you guys were getting at each other real hard, and I remember when me and Daniel went at each other really bad, and now we're really good friends again, and it's really good for poker. It really is.
Yeah, you know, you mature a lot and throughout life, and you have some days you regret. You know, being in this industry for 20 years, you know, there's many days of comments I've made that I wish I never made, and you know, thankfully, Daniel reached out to me post COVID and said, "Listen, we're mature adults. Like, let's move past it. There's no reason to have the animosity and the hatred, and you know, undermine and whatever. It's just no reason not to grow because we do care about poker and." Us getting along is only going to be better for this industry.
You know, you said
Absolutely.
I said this on a Twitter space last night, and I want to say it here too. In that, as I've gotten older, you know, there is some sense of maturity that you grow with that. But one of the things that I look at with all the Twitter beefs and all the stuff that happens is they could all be avoided with formats like this. I think are much more conducive towards like listening to each other and having constructive conversation. But more importantly, I have found over the last 4 or 5 years, I'm way more effective just reaching out to people privately first, right? If you, instead of like, hey, Mike, when you're not talking, I think you're having feedback. So keep your mic.
I keep muting him every so often.
Yeah, we got feedback. So, but yeah, instead of like tweeting at Shaun, blah 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 blah, call Shaun, text Shaun, say, hey, can we hash this out? And then, you know, hey, listen, if it doesn't work out, you go to Twitter. Now, the only benefit of people doing it on Twitter is twofold. One, it creates drama. Maybe that's what they want. Two, gets their name out there. And unfortunately, this is a sad reality that we live in is it sells, right? Like if people want to make a name for themselves in poker for whatever reason, you know, it's a strategy. It is a formula that's worked. I mean, obviously you look at, you know, sort of Doug's rise, and a lot of it came from, attacking his competitors and, you know, in the coaching space or whatever the case may be. But like, you know, watching that stream, I didn't enjoy it. I only watched like 10 minutes and really couldn't take it. But it's a lot. I thought the commentary about it was really, really well thought out. And a lot of people had really interesting things to say about it. And that like, is this really what we want? And you know what? Clearly it is, because, you know, that's what everyone wanted to see. But then when they actually see it, they go, you know what? I don't know if I like this so much. Like, it's not as cool as I thought it would be. But in general, I guess the overarching point I wanted to say is reaching out to people privately, and actually, you know, whatever, quote unquote, you know, I was going to use being the man. I'm not sure you can say that in 2023, but being the bigger man, being the bigger person, being the bigger person and just saying, you know, listen, let's squash it. Because the beef we had, you know, for me, I don't give a shit if you needle me, like that's fine. But obviously I'm much more protective of, you know, my wife and my family and stuff like that. And I know that you are too, Shaun. And so, you know, that's not like, I literally on a stream told the guy I was going to feed him his teeth anally because he said something about my wife, right? So, if you want to piss me off and tilt me, that's definitely the place to go, but I wouldn't, because I don't have self-control and bad things could happen.
Luckily, you're still a little guy, but yeah, no,
That's true. And yeah, I would have felt comfortable just running away from you in the past, but now, now you might just be able to catch me. So I don't know.
I got long arms, so yeah, you better be a few seats away.
Yeah.
All right, Skull Mike, sorry. I see you joined in as a speaker. You got some questions for us? For those who don't know, Skull Mike runs the Lodge stream for Doug, and they've put on some great streams. Obviously, the Perkins one this week. If you haven't watched it, you better. It was amazing.
Yeah, what's going on, Shaun?
Not much, man. Just enjoying doing my little pacing. Love these spaces. Like Daniel said, I think this is a great format for people. I think we saw in the Joe Ingram call-ins during the Robbie stuff that getting a few people to chime in for a little bit, get different opinions, works so well because we're a lot of intelligent people and we have strong opinions, but people can also change their opinions with a reasonable conversation.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I've been in here for a little bit, and my question was kind of strictly really poker related, because based on the conversations we were having of, people being in the best shape of their life and feeling sharper at the poker table. And this is no offense to you, Shaun, like you're on your way to being in the best shape of your life, but in past World Series, you might not have been in the best shape of your life. And you talked about being really sharp late in the sessions and late in the levels and different events, day twos, day threes, whatever it may be. And that really giving you an edge against your opponents. And I just was curious, what do you really attribute that to? How do you stay locked in mentally? What really drives you to be so sharp later on in the day versus your opponents?
Well, it's really funny because last year I remember a post by Jason Kuhn, like anyone who wants to work out, I'll be doing that. And I made an argument that these people working out are too exhausted. They deplete their energy levels. As I'm learning more about the body and the way it works, like the way your liver produces glycogen and all this other stuff, my intuition is that maybe some of them were being worn out on that. They weren't having enough carbs or something. Like, well, I just ate only carbs. So I had an immense amount of energy available to me. So I didn't get that fatigue at the end of the day. So that's one of the reasons I'm intrigued to see how this goes, because I know most of the top guys were healthy, and I was kind of the one guy who crushed, who was, lazy and fat. And I always attribute to maybe I just hibernate year round and I can sleep really well and sleep short increments and, fall asleep on command. So I was able to get more sleep than most of my competitors throughout the 2-month span.
I want to echo that, because what Shaun's pointing to, I think, is really, really true. Because I've been playing the World Series for almost 30 years, and I've tried working out every day. I've tried working out sometimes. I've tried eating healthy. What I have found works genuinely for me is like 2 months before the World Series, I get in very good shape. So I'll try to come in to the World Series about 155 pounds. I'm only 5'9". That's good shape for me. During the World Series for 7 weeks, I will not work out. Okay, because I found that when I would work out in the mornings at 1 a.m., I'm exhausted and I'm making mistakes because I'm tired, because my body needs, the energy for all the other things. And in addition to that, I eat whatever the hell I want, which often is, like you said, potato chips, carbs, chocolate chips, all these types of things. But I do that knowing that I have a formula that in 6 weeks after the World Series, I can get back to the shape that I was in about, well, maybe not 6, more like 8 weeks ish. I have the discipline to do that. But I agree with Shaun in that, like if you want to grind the World Series the way we do, working out, I don't think is feasible. I do think it's fine for people who just play, for example, 1 or 2 3 tournaments a week, and they play the high rollers, and they have a good schedule and workout. But if you're playing every single day, the number one thing that I was doing and making a mistake of was I would wake up to work out, right? So instead of waking up to work out, I take that 1 to 2 hours of sleep, and that is like the most important thing, getting as much sleep as possible, more so than everything else. By the end of the World Series, I'm spent. My adrenal glands are just completely depleted. I've given it everything I got, but I love it, and that's why I'm going to be interested to see how Mr. Shaun Deeb does this year, on a very, very different schedule for him. I'm not taking on my fantasy team. I'm just saying, because I'm worried you're just going to be tilted.
It's definitely possible. Like, I think that I could definitely have a lull this year, and maybe next year I'll be more used to this lifestyle, and my body would react differently. So I'm definitely intrigued to see this data point. Did you ever experiment with working out after playing, like I'm planning on doing?
I did it basically because I was like, it was way back. I was doing like a P90X routine, and I would like, if I missed it during the morning, I would do it at night, and I would always make sure to do it. But again, I just found that overall it was like taxing and taking up too much of more important sleep time, right? And I really, in addition to that, not only sleep, but just like just relax. Like, you know what I mean? Like, instead of getting home and rushing and going to the gym and like having to work out and then try to get to sleep, like I can get home and I can just veg. You know, I can play chess. I can, well, which is not really supposed to be a good way to veg, but just like kind of hang out and, do nothing and be a little bit of a slob or a blob. But when you're so regimented and you're trying to fit that in and grind the best way you can to win player of the year, I think it's, I've tried it. Like I said, I tried it. And ultimately what I've come to is get in shape before the World Series, and then understand that it's going to take a toll on my body for 7 weeks, and then after that, I'll get back to work.
How much weight did you usually gain at the World Series?
I come in around 155 ideally, and I'll gain like 10 pounds in 7 weeks because I'm eating because here's the thing too, like when you're tired, there's plenty of studies that prove this. When you're fatigued and when you're tired, your body craves sugar and it craves carbs more often too. Like they did these studies where they put people in a room. They didn't tell them what the study was, and they just didn't let them sleep. Okay. That was like the thing that we're not allowed to sleep. And there was all types of food in the room. You had broccoli salad, you had pizza, you had chocolate, you had like healthy food, all this kind of stuff. And then what these people didn't realize was as the longer they were awake, not only the more they started to eat the junk food, the more often they did without realizing it. They'd be asked later and they'd say like, how often do you think you ate? And they'd say, I don't know, like every 2 hours. And then they'd look and it was every 15 minutes and they didn't realize it. So when the brain is fatigued and you're tired like that, I don't exactly know the formula or the science behind it, but there's a direct link to the body wanting sugar. So I give my body the sugar it wants and craves. And I know, like, you look at Phil Hellmuth too. He does the same thing. Like he has sleep issues already with sleep apnea and whatnot. But you see him; he's got that big fucking bag of Sour Patch Kids and chocolate and whatever the case may be. He goes all in on that, and that's kind of how I approach it too. And that's just through years of experience and what works. Listen, I'm not Jason Kuhn, but then again, Jason Kuhn doesn't do it for 7 weeks like we do. He plays a much more limited schedule. I'd be interested to see how, he balances getting up at 6 a.m., running, doing work, lifts, and then, still playing his best at 1 a.m.
Yeah, it's very intriguing because like health and poker, there's so many ways to approach it. And I've always felt like my way was pretty optimized for what I was doing. And then, me and you have never talked about this subject. To hear that you're in the same boat, makes me feel like I was doing the right thing just out of laziness, for effectiveness.
Yeah, by you happened upon the secret formula. Because honestly, yep. I was always surprised because I'm a little older than you, but I was always really surprised to see how well you could focus, like after playing a 400, a 10K, and like play like 6 days in a row, make 3 finals, and like you're still zoned in and you're still paying attention. Where I know that I need breaks. Like sometimes I just check out and I'll be on my phone or not pay attention for an hour or two because I just don't have the energy to. But I've always been intrigued by like how you're able to do it, and I guess part of it is just you certainly were not depriving yourself of calories.
No, but I mean, I lost weight every world. I usually would lose 10 to 15 pounds at World Series. Like that was like my regular, when I'd come home, I'd be, from 300 to 285 or whatever it was, like from year to year. I don't think I ever didn't lose at least 5 pounds, never more than 15. And I would eat whatever I want. Like last year, we'd end the day, I'd always go down to the food court and, get some of the Greek food or something else, and eat whatever I wanted to. But you don't have that many meals, and I would actually forget to order meals a lot during the series. So I had a great meal plan. I love the company, but I would miss their order and then all of a sudden have 1 or 2 meals a day, but still be okay.
People don't realize, like, I stocked up now. I have boxes and boxes in the back bedroom of junk. I got fucking ketchup chips from Canada because I love them so much. So like,
so bad. So bad.
You guys don't get it. If you
don't, I've tried
them.
I listen. You know me. I'm willing to try anything.
Yeah,
and I love
dill pickle chips and ketchup chips are just Canadian staples.
No. Any other questions, Mike? We'll get someone else up here.
No, it's pretty interesting. It was just interesting to hear Daniel's thought as well. I mean, you're aware of that data. You've clearly had success for, plenty of years. And then later on in the session for you still find yourself kind of slipping and craving that sugar to kind of keep you going. And it's interesting. You're gaining weight, and Shaun's losing weight, and you're all are elite players. So it's just interesting to hear both your
Well, I
guys'
mean, I was
perspective.
also starting twice as big, so it's probably a little easier for me to lose weight.
Yeah, I'm good, guys. I appreciate it.
The ending of this Laker game is pretty insane.
What's up, Andrew?
Yo, what up? Just wanted to hop on here while there's all this camaraderie going on and everybody's happy, squashing beefs. Just ask Daniel again to try to get your boy unbanned from Caesars like I did at the Poker Go series. All these big names in here. See if we could pull those strings, have the community come together.
It's tough to get people unbanned. I've been trying to get Sam Pansgun banned for years.
Well,
And
that's the difference. So Slay Dog just got unbanned, and that's wild.
I was not a fan of that one, but Slay Dog does his own thing.
Yeah, for sure. No,
So
I mean,
who you trying to get unbanned? Who's the person?
Me, myself. I got
Oh.
banned 5 years ago after just some one drunken, stupid night. But I got some people in here that can vouch for my character, old Dash and Angela, and everybody's handing out weight loss bets and helping each other out. I've been grinding for 10 years. I'm just trying to get back to it. It's a little depressing. Everybody talking about it, can't be able to play,
Well, Dash's result, he's got some connections with Jack and other people. I think he's in your corner. If he's pushing for you, then you have a good shot, man.
Yeah. Carrie sent an email to Ty Stewart, so I'm just waiting to hear back on that. But the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So just wanted to hop on and see what happens.
All right, buddy. Appreciate it. Have a
good
good day.
luck on the weight loss, bro. All right, bet.
So we're going to get away from the friendly banter and bring up my true arch nemesis, Veronica Brill.
Well, I only came up here to talk to Daniel about Canadian potato chips because I am a fellow Canadian, and Sobeys sells all the best, Canadian potato chips. And Daniel, you are missing out on one particular type of potato chip, and that's the spicy dill pickle. It's better than ketchup. It's better than dill pickle. I love both of those, but spicy dill pickle, oh my God. It's something else.
Well, are you coming to the World Series? And if you can you bring me about 17 or 20 bags?
I will try to I'll try to get my hands on them. I have a friend who brings them back for me every once in a while when he goes. But I'm telling you, I've never tasted potato chips better than that.
I want to know who the first person going to do this to poor Shaun, because I think this is a really good strategy.
They're going to bring me food all the time, yeah.
If you're on day 2 of like the 10K Raz and Shaun Deeb is at your table, you order like 6 pizzas, cake, chips, all the stuff, and like eat it right in front of him. Like because he can handle a needle, and I would love to see. I want to see who the first person to do that is.
It happened to me like inadvertently. I was went with one of my brother's 40th birthday party. Went to Springfield Casino, and we went to eat at this pub. And they literally ordered every appetizer that was deep fried, all the stuff I'd normally eat. The whole table's covered in it. I ordered a grilled chicken salad that took an hour and a half to show up, and I was starving. And and the only time I've struggled on food was actually a Lebanese dinner that my sister cooked for another family get together, and that was the only time I was like, man, it really sucks to not eat this food. But I reached out to nutritionists, and they included hummus in this week's meal plan, and so I get to eat most of the foods I like, and so it's been surprisingly easy. Like I don't have cravings yet, and most people said they would come the first few weeks, so I think I'm good. But I definitely know I'm gonna get needled with that, which is fine. I want people to be happy. How many I ordered the pizza for the fucking late night room a few times to World Series because people enjoy that, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I hope that if they get enough pizza, they share with everyone else, so they all gorge themselves while I'm sitting there taking all their money.
I just want to say, go fucking Lakers. I'm done.
Matt Vangren, what's up, buddy?
Hey, Shaun. Just wanted to say congratulations on taking on this weight loss bet. It's going to be awesome for you. I have a question for you and Daniel. So you guys said that the problem was bleeding into day 4 for the 10Ks, and a couple 1500s even bleeding into day 4. But do you think it's really necessary to move it for like 3 or 4 people that make that day 4?
Well, I think it's more than just that. I think the whole, some of them you don't even get to the money till end of day 2 or even start of day 3. Like, or there's just a weird amount of people left. And I think that once you cut out those levels, yes, it's no day 4, but it's more than just that. It's the amount of people get to day 3 and miss other events, or someone doesn't want to play something because they really want to play their favorite event is in 2-3 days. And they're just like, well, I don't want to be in this tournament and be mad that I missed my favorite event of the year and not be able to play it at all.
Yeah, that makes
sense.
sense.
So I would say like it's less about is it necessary? No, of course, as you said, it's only 3-4 people. But at the same time, I think everyone, when we think about like what is the desired time frame, and it's 3 days, and it does, like if you're in the player of the year chase, right? When you're down to 3, it costs you playing in like a very good event the next day because you've missed late reg for it. There shouldn't be any reason for that. One of the good things we do at the PokerGo Studio with the mixed game events and all the others is no matter what, our events are 2 days where you play to the final table on day 1 and then you play the final table the next day. As soon as the final table's over, you can jump in the next one. If it's close to where they're still playing, we always accommodate those players so they can jump in the next one. For the reason for that is during the series we have at PokerGo Studio, there's usually a player of the series award, right? So there's extra money on the line for something like that. And I think there's enough prestige now with player of the year, especially for a handful of us who, go after it every year, who care enough that like it would suck for me, like if I was in a, 1500 Omaha 8, and I'm down to 3 and I missed the late reg for like the 50K or something like that, which could happen. And like you said, like Shaun said, then it would cause people to be a little more selective on events they play. And I think it's best for the series, for everybody, if everybody can just play as many as possible. And, shortening that just a little bit. And again, I don't think it's going to come at a cost, right? Because these limit events, as I said, they generally get to like average stack about 10, 11 big bets. But we spend so much time wasting time with 40 or 50, in the early days. Like, it's not going to take away from the skill of the event too much if we shave off, the 2-3 hours extra we need. And I think, this year it'll be better. But then, next year, if, Shaun and I are aligned on this, and I think Jack will be fine with it, making day 2 a little faster. I think most people will be good with that. I don't think there's going to be enough, I don't think there's a drawback to doing it, I guess.
The only drawback I would wonder, and maybe you guys can answer this question, is do you think it'll have any effect on the average stack? Because one of the issues that I have is when you get down to the final table, it generally turns into a crapshoot at some point. And when you're playing for that much money, that's always a problem.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, the faster the structure, the higher the average stack. Doesn't seem like it would make sense on the surface, but it actually does, because when more people go broke, right, there's less people with the same amount of chips, so the average stack is going to be bigger, generally speaking. The structures that are really fucked is when nobody goes broke for a really long period of time, everyone's got about the same stack, and now the blinds are really, really high, and now it's like a full crapshoot. But when people do go bust, like day 1 is pretty quick, I think, on these 10Ks. It gets pretty quick in the end of day 1. But that's fine, because then people start the average stack with day 2, and they're pretty darn deep. There's if you're like the chip leader, you might have as much as like 40 big bets on day 2.
True, that's true. Can we get the same end time on the 1500s? That sounds pretty nice.
They're different animals, it's like a different clientele.
True.
The 1500s are just different. Because here's the thing, I don't like the 1500s personally because they're too slow for me. And that's fine. I know that I'm not the target audience for those, right? I like playing the high rollers, the 10Ks. I don't want to waste time. But at the 1500 level, somebody comes out, they want to play the 1500 Raz, and they don't want to be in jeopardy of going broke on level 2, right? More so, 10K players or above, they don't really care as much. They're like, all right, whatever. If I bust this, I'll go play cash or go play the next one, right? But
yeah,
the 1500 structures are specifically designed so that there is more play on day 1. For me, like, I look at the 1500 Omaha 8, and that's like a death trap. I don't want to play in that one, even though I love the game, because that one you won't even get to the money till like late into day 2. So you're playing 2 full days in a 1500 to win like $2,300 unless you go really, really deep. And again, that's what I think the World Series does a great job of. That's not for me, those events, and that's okay. I'm not mad about it, because guess what? I've got tons of events for me that are geared towards me, and it's really a balancing act to make sure that you're giving everybody a little bit of what they want. Low rollers having these big $1 million guarantees for $300, check. High rollers across the board, check. PLO, check. Mixed games, check. High buy-ins, low buy-ins for mixed games, check. Slow structures for low buy-ins, high structures a little bit faster, check. So again, I think they do an amazing job, and they do listen to the feedback, regardless of what some people think. I know Shaun has Jack's ear, so do I. Like, they take in the feedback from the regs, and I always, but I hope Shaun would agree with this. When I think of changes implemented and stuff like that, I do think about what's best for the majority of the people, not just myself, right? Because there's decisions I've made or I've wanted to make that directly hurt me. When the whole discussion of rebuys came up, I said we shouldn't have them like we did before. They were unlimited and it was crazy. And I said I don't think that's like it hurts the prestige a little bit. But if my goals are to win, that obviously helps me, right? So yeah, I overall I think they do a really good job, and it's always worth looking at the schedules, taking feedback from people, and fine tuning things. And the 10Ks being just a little bit faster on day 2, I think is a good change for next year.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I think the 1500s, like, you have so many people who are the specialists who fly out for that game, like the stud high. You get all the Foxwoods 2040 stud guys and girls who want to come play it, and I think catering to them and giving them more of a tournament is totally fine, because that's the only time of the year they get to play some of those in tournament format. So I think giving them more play, as much as I wish they would speed up the 1500 split pot ones, because I know, like Daniel says, like the '08 bubble can go for a while. It's 1,000 people. It's a very slow tournament, but the majority of those people enjoy that, and so you just have to say, yes, I know that the pros who play everything don't like that, but you want that tournament to be soft, and you want all these people who only play '08 to come out for it. You can't make it that quick of a structure, because they're going to complain and be like, I don't want to fly to Vegas and spend $500 on a flight and a hotel for 2 hours of play and all of a sudden be down to 5 big bets. And like the average stack, like Daniel said, me and him both know a lot about tournament structure, and I think you do too, Matt, is no matter what you do, that's going to get to that point where you can't keep 25 big bets an average like at the final table. That's impossible to do structure wise, because the play with ICM consideration and other things, there's way less ramming and jamming, a lot more heads up pots, and the stacks are just going to dwindle because it's so hard to bust someone when average stack is that deep.
Yeah, totally. Actually, when you said that, I've always had this idea. Is it possible to do a structure where the blinds don't go up until the average big bets gets to a certain amount, and then it goes up, and then it catches back up? Is that possible?
Alan Goring came up with that idea a long time ago to keep it at a certain amount. And I think logistically, I mean, obviously it's possible to do it. It's logistically a little bit more difficult, and would create a little, because especially with the big field events, I think it's easier to do in like a tournament with like 100 players, but it could be problematic. One thing I wanted to add to the structures, which I think they did a great job, everybody been clamming for it, is if you were a stud player, right? You come out on Monday, the 1500 stud, right? The 10K stud will be on Thursday. So like if you want to pick a week and you're from Foxwoods and you love stud, you literally would get your events where you can win the 1500, boom, jump into the 10K. And in addition to that, the 1500s throughout the entire, I don't know how they did this. It's amazing puzzle work. The 1500s are always first, then the 10K. So, those that do well in the 1500 are more likely to play in the bigger one.
Yeah, that's actually one of the changes that I really, really liked. And I don't mean to come in and say like I don't like the change or anything. I think overall, over the past 5 or 6 years, I think a lot of the changes done to the World Series have been quite good. I think for everybody, as you talked about, it can't please everybody, but for the most part, it's been very good changes overall.
Yeah, Jack has taken a lot of input. There's people besides me and Daniel that he listens to, some low roller people like DJ McKinnon, who are DJ is one of the sharpest people of seeing the flaws in the schedule, and I think, and the structures and all that stuff. It's like not listening to Alan Kessler is all you got to do, because he always just wants more chips, more play. He's such a broken record on that. While the other people he listens to, the people he actually listens to, are more dynamic in the way we interpret these situations and recognize the need for each particular event. And to do the schedule, I mean, I don't envy Jack for his job of trying to figure out 100 events in 55 days or whatever they do, and the staffing and all the other things. Like, it's a crazy thing. And I think if you told Daniel or Jack, or anyone else who's been following the World Series 10, 15 years ago and showed them the 2023 schedule, they'd be like, what the fuck happened to allow these buy-ins and this many events? How do you staff this? How do you run this? But they do a great job. And I think every amateur I talk to at the World Series always ask their opinions and ask them questions, and I think more and more liking it. I have a really good concept to do this year to show people about the Bravo system, which I think a lot of the part-timers or even some pros don't even know about it or use it properly. And once you alleviate the line issue, which is the biggest issue that I have with the World Series, and like I think they got to figure out a way to make the late reg line go a little bit quicker in some spots. But I think that when people actually get to buy in and play right away, is such a good moment mentally for them. And just the World Series of waiting in lines has to be avoided at all costs.
Oh, Shaun, I agree. I've said it many times. I think the Bravo system is the single best thing the World Series has ever done, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think that not nearly enough people use it, and that's going to be. I have a video I talked to Jack about doing at the beginning of the summer, showing people how to do that, explaining the system, showing how to get it up, showing how easy it is, and pay the $3, and you'll all be much happier doing it.
Yeah. I've always like, I don't know, I've always shook my head because I don't, not because I have any privilege. I never have waited in a line for the last 5 years at a World Series because I use the machines and there's no lines at the machines. But I watch these lines and I think to myself, my goodness, why are these people not understanding how easy this would be to just come in one day? Like, I think it's more difficult for people that are just coming to town to play like a weekend tournament. Like, but for someone like Shaun and I, like, you just load your account, up front, got all my money in my Bravo and just boom, 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 print out the tickets as needed. But it's like, I would suggest to anyone that's coming to the World Series and hasn't before, if you plan on playing more than a few events and you don't like lines, which I imagine most of us don't, then the best thing to do is either wire or bring money and put it into your account. That way you don't pay like the exorbitant like credit card fees, because you can actually use the machine and credit cards. But I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Shaun, that there's like you have to pay credit card fees on that, which is kind of silly. You're paying like 4 or 5% or something stupid like
I
that.
think the 3% credit card fee. It's the same if you use it at the cage. I don't think there's any way to get around that. So, but obviously, I've never used a credit card to buy a new event. Thankfully, at some point in my career, I probably will have to. But yeah, right now, I think that they have a lot of things great, and I think that they push when people go to the line, like, oh, you plan on playing this, $300 tournament, you want to be in 5 bullets. Put $1,500 on your Bravo account, go to that line in the future, and only deal with this once. And I think that people coming out for a week, if you're playing more than 3 events, you should be doing that. Why would you want to wait in the line 3 times if you only have to do it once?
Yeah, definitely don't forget to add the extra $3. I've done that a couple of times too.
We've all done that before. It happens.
Also, one other thing I wanted to mention, I wanted to echo Daniel on this. This is what I do as well. So anybody that's coming out to the series, I definitely would suggest not worrying about working out if you're going to be grinding hard, that is, because there's just not enough time. I mean, Shaun can speak to this. Like, when you go and play every day, you pretty much wake up, get a drink, go to the strip and play all day, and then you're like home, you have like an hour to unwind, and then you go to sleep. So what I do is the same thing as Daniel, is I'll do yoga for 2 or 3 weeks before the series, and that's it. And don't really worry about it. And like Shaun says, like, you actually have to walk a lot for these new accommodations. And I typically, on every break, I'll just hoof it to like the longest bathroom and go back. So you actually get a decent amount of exercise just doing that.
Yeah, and I think also for me, staying on property, I know Daniel loves his house, his bed, his dogs, and wants to go back to that. But, knowing I have a room 10 feet, away when I bag a day 2, and I can get right to my room and go to sleep or sleep on dinner breaks, it's so nice. Like, it is one of the reasons why I've been put up the volume the last few years. Once I started staying on property, my results got even better.
Yeah, I've been debating doing that for a while. I may start doing that as well, but I can imagine, because it takes 2 hours for me to, every day to go there and back. So that's a lot of time when you're talking about 45 days.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Looking forward to battling you in the series. Thanks for having me on.
Hold on. What's your schedule going to look like there for fantasy purposes?
To be determined.
Okay. You're looking to play the bigger stuff?
I would love to.
Oh, I see. I got it. I get what you're saying now.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah. Reach out if you want.
Okay.
All right,
If
guys.
Daniel drafts you, he will.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, let's get someone else in.
I want to ask one thing, you guys, since we're talking about, improving things. And one of the things that I a lot of the rec players have come to me in like the 2500s, the 2000s, or the 1500s. And I don't know what the answer to this is they get real upset that they get there on time, and then late reg people, and then they end up moving their table like 5, 6. One guy said I got moved 9 times. He goes, and I'm a recreational guy, and I have to learn how people play, and it's not fair to me. What can we do? I know in the 10Ks, it really kind of doesn't matter because we all know each other. But what can we do to help the people in the lower limits of like the late reg people, like screwing up people that show up on time?
I think there's no solution for that besides incentivizing people to show up earlier.
I don't know if there's no solution. Obviously, we're a bunch of smart people. I just don't think we've come up with a better system that protects the integrity of the event right now. Because like the issue we had before when people would late reg, when we first started late reg, is if 9 people showed up, they would all just be at the same table, right? So we had to do something to address that. So that's why they pick a player from a table, move them, pick a player, and it's problematic too when like you said, maybe 30-40% of the field shows up on time and the rest start coming, because the potential for somebody who showed up on time to move is increased exponentially. And you're right. It's not even just, recreational players in the small binds, the big binds too. They don't like it as much. And I understand that, but again, I don't know that we have a better solution for it other than somehow like, what we do at Poker Go Studio isn't feasible for the World Series which is at Poker Go. If you show up on time for the no limit tournaments, you pay no rake on that bullet. And then if you rebuy, hopefully you, that's how they make their money. I will say a sidebar story. There was a point where, the German contingent would come to Poker Go and they would show up on time and play, and like they never rebought, and they'd get the $50 voucher for food. And we're like, the fuck, man? Like, that's not going to work, right? It's like I remember years ago in the Bellagio when people started ordering, because you get free food, people started ordering lobsters and steaks and champagne and it's like, okay, no more free food. Like, people can't have nice things apparently.
All right, Troy, you're up here. You got a question for anybody or a comment?
Yeah, I actually just wanted to chime in as far as just with the general health, going through the series and whatnot. I'm a pretty low stakes guy. I play a lot of like the low stakes mixed games. I only play one 1500 event. It's usually either the 1500 studied or the Raz. And I'm up here in Alaska. I only come down just for like a couple weeks at a time. So 2 or 3 weeks is my sample size for the series now for the last 5 years. But usually I'll play it like Arieh, Orleans, stuff like that for a lot of those games. But to get onto the diet specific stuff, I mapped out kind of an interesting way that I think it doesn't have to be quite like where Daniel's at, but it kind of meets in the middle of, okay, this is structured, but it's not. It's a little bit of a loose thing. So what I tend to do is when I get up, I'll go to the gym. I will run 1 mile, and then I'll lift weights, upper body, for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And then the next day do the lower body and just flip flop back and forth. I'll go out to the pool, spend like 20 to 30 minutes just getting some sun. I'll then go out and eat, and then I'll go right to it. But what it has to do with the food thing that I want to bring up here is, so like as soon as I get up, within the first half an hour, I'll eat like 150, maybe 100 calories or something like that, just to get my metabolism going. And then I'll eat every 2 hours consistently. So typically, like on the breaks for all these events, I'll eat like a handful of beef jerky and just constantly drinking water all day. And then at the end of the night, or whatever that is, I'll have like chicken Caesar salad or something like that with maybe some onions on it. But then I'll pepper in some beer from time to time, like maybe a beer or two a day or something like that. Not trying to get, not trying to overindulge too much or anything, but and then from time to time, if I'm kind of feeling it or I just want to switch something up, I'll go and have like, a chocolate cake or just whatever, go splurge on something maybe later that night or whatever. But as far as just that balance, I think you can strike a pretty good balance for keeping a constant level of blood sugar throughout the series, just day in, day out, by just that little bit of time in the gym, a little bit of sunshine, and then a consistent eating practice for the day. That did work really well for me last summer. I also started it 3 or 4 weeks before I came down to the series, just to get myself primed for it. And I don't know, I'm kind of rambling on here, but so that was something that worked well for me. And I don't know what you guys have for maybe thoughts on that or.
I think when it comes to that, I always have told people do whatever you're comfortable with. I think we're going to see the spectrum of the people who try to just eat super healthy and eat very little, and the people who eat everything. And I think everyone's body's a little bit different in their schedule, and just go from there. All right, thank you for that, Troy. We can get someone else up here.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike, you're in the hot seat.
Hi. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm going to participate in the current discussion, and then I'm going to just really try to burn some asses here. So let me get to the bottom line up front. I don't know what the hell this has to do with Ukraine. I understand it's a slow evening. I do appreciate, I've been a part of this space for a while. I do appreciate the conversation. And I'm really into what you guys are talking about. And I'm conflicted because I'm here to drive, energy towards support for Ukraine in all aspects. And I'm also into what you're talking about.
Do you even know what we're talking about?
I do, yes. So let me, if you will oblige me just for a second, let me get to what you were talking about as far as health and fitness. Is it okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine. I just want to avoid political topics. I have a lot of close friends in Ukraine. It's a shitty situation. I think this is a little more lighthearted space than that. So, unfortunately, I'm not going to lie to ask the next question if it involves Ukraine and attention to that. It's a shitty situation, but yeah. So you can talk about health and fitness if you want.
Yeah, well, I didn't come in here to burn people's asses. I logged on because I know that I know it's late at night, but I had a healthy appreciation for what you guys are talking about. I'm 59 years old. I'm a veteran of the intelligence community for like 25 years. And I listened to, I was really intrigued by some of the conversation about the different workout routines. And I wanted to share mine. And that's a bit selfish because I broke in and started bitching, and we'll get back to Ukraine. So if you can give me just a couple of seconds. So let me just explain what I've been doing that has been an absolutely remarkable transformation in my life. I've always been a healthy person. I played college football in the 80s. And last year, I began to try to do or to replicate the fitness program that we had to go through each fall when we showed back up at campus in fall football camp before the season started. And the test that we all underwent was running 16 110-yard sprints in 16 seconds or less, with 30 seconds rest in between. And after that was over, you got about 3 minutes rest, and you had to do 10 40-yard sprints that were timed, and you got about a 5-minute rest after that. And then you had to do 10 20-yard backwards back pedals or sprints or whatever. So
okay, I appreciate that, Mike. We're going to go to another speaker. Thank you for your comments.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
All right, O'Hare, you're connecting. I don't know how you're going to follow up that intriguing conversation, but try. You got to unmute yourself, bottom left, O'Hare.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear you there, Shaun. Fantastic space here. Loving the top topics. Just wanted to give a shout out to Dan. I'm a big fan of his YouTube videos. Been watching his YouTube World Series kind of daily diaries. They're fantastic, and I just want to ask him if he's going to continue doing those this year. It's been a big help kind of mentally as a poker player, so in the tournament. So I love his his video blogs, and I just wanted to see if he was going to continue those going forward.
Yeah, no, they're I've been doing them I think since 2017.
Right.
The plan is to keep doing them as long as I can keep doing them, and we do them. I go hard during the World Series. One rolls out every single day on YouTube. Obviously, I have editors overnight do it. I don't do any of the editing. I just do the filming. And yeah, I mean, I go hard 7 weeks, and then I shut the lights and lay on my couch for a month and don't want to be bothered.
Yeah, I love it. It's really helped out. One of the things I like about it is your strategy when you're layering multiple different tournaments in a day, kind of picking your points, which ones you want to kind of play in, which ones you don't. There are a lot of strategies that you use that I really enjoy. So anyway, keep up the good work, man. I love it. And I wish we had more spaces like this. This is the first one I've actually been on. So hopefully, Shaun, you guys do more of these.
Yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying this. I've been joining a lot of other people's spaces, and I think a frequent one in the poker community having good discussions is great. And, there's been so much input for so many top minds that I think everyone loves these, and, everyone gets to come in, ask a question or two. And I definitely think this is one of the best avenues of, communicating with the community and getting everyone's opinion and learning, because me and Daniel, maybe I'll speak for Daniel as well, but we like getting the opinions of other people because we mostly talk to high stakes guys. So getting some of the lower guys can be very useful for when we're trying to implement some ideas to get their opinions.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate it. And anyway, keep up the good work, guys. I love these. So hopefully we'll have more. I can sit back and kind of listen to you guys. Love it. Thanks.
Thanks. Justin, you're in the hot seat.
Hey guys. Yeah, I just wanted to ask a couple questions in terms of mainly directed at Daniel. I wanted to ask questions to Berkey, but I guess he left. No, I just want to know, Daniel, what do you think of the whole beef with Berkey Airball? I know Berkey mentioned that he wanted to actually talk to you, or he thought that you were an equal to him in terms of conversation. Would you hop on his podcast? Just questions in terms of that. Also from Toronto, so
Yeah, I did catch that. Hanks, who's in there, let me know that they were talking about. So that all spawned from a Twitter space between Doug and Berkey, where Doug was suggesting to Berkey that they should do a podcast together because they would disagree a lot, and it would make for a lot of clicks. And Berkey chimed back with saying, "You don't respect me as a poker player or poker mind, and I don't respect you as a person, so that wouldn't work." And then I guess Berkey on his podcast today mentioned that I would probably be a better partner for that, because I do think that I it would be I don't think you need this animosity when you have a show like that. And we would disagree on stuff, which is fine because we come from different backgrounds and more tournament based, and he's more I guess a little bit more cash guy, and we're gonna have different views on different things for sure. As far as the beef and stuff like that, I think it's a shame. I think Berkey, I said this on the Twitter space the other night, if I was advising him, I wouldn't have even played on that stream, just because it wasn't worth the headache, because it was going to be a headache. The cackling was out of control. I watched for 10 minutes and I'm like, how can everything be this funny when it's not, everyone's laughing at the top of their lungs. And it's I felt I tweeted this. There's a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode about being a bad middle, right? And you can see tonight, Shaun's doing a great job of hosting because he's deferring and he's not trying to monopolize the conversation. But what you have is when you have a table full of 7 people and 5 of them want to talk the entire time and not really give breath to let other people speak, it's awful. It doesn't work. And one of the skills you have to learn if you're going to be good on streams is you contribute and then you step back. You put your 2 pieces in, you crack a joke, you tell a story here and there, but you don't try to overtalk people. You don't try to monopolize the conversation. And Berkey obviously said maybe 2 words the entire time, but he was in an unenviable spot. I agreed with Shaun Deeb when he tweeted that I felt like if Berkey was going to play that, he should have had more allies at the table, because it was 4-on-1 or something like that, and a couple neutrals. But that would have given him a little bit more impetus, I think, to push back in spots and whatnot. And maybe that'd be better, maybe that'd be worse, I don't know. But overall, I think we have to be careful, I think, in poker to not devolve to the point where it's like worse than Jerry Springer like TV. Drama's great. It's always been around. There's always been beefs and stuff like that, heads up for roles and things. But like when it's so inauthentic and manufactured and kind of goofy, I don't know. For me, and from what I've gotten a sense of from those that have been chiming in on Twitter, they're kind of like, ugh. But it's one of those weird things where it's like like a car crash and people just can't look away. And that's what I feel like we're sort of at. It's there. It's what's in the forefront. And I don't like everyone says, well, why don't we focus on the good people in poker? I'm like, here's the problem. Some of the people that you're mentioning, they don't even talk. They don't do anything. They just play. And it's like, what are we focusing on? There's nothing to see, And here's the other problem. And if you look at Poker News and you look at stuff like that and ask the guys there that work there, which articles get the most clicks? Do you think it's, just a feel good story about a charity that was done to help, children in a country? No, the stories that get the clicks and the attention are these kind of like lowbrow, low end scandals or beefs and stuff like that. So that's not only poker. That's like how the whole world works now. And it's unfortunate. I don't have an answer. I don't have a solution to that other than let's be mindful of it and think about doing stuff like this right now to balance it. Like I think I've been on this space since the get-go, and I think it's been civil. I think we had very little like lowbrow insults. There's been nothing, it's just been a discussion. Had people chime in about different topics, like you said, and I enjoy this. I'm sitting here, I'm like, I have 3 hours and I'm loving it. This is great. Thanks for
Who would
putting it
ever
together.
thought that me and you would be able to be this civil a few years ago? It's crazy,
I
but
did. It was like, I just wanted you to apologize. That was it, for fuck's sakes.
Anyway, appreciate that, Justin. We're gonna let
Have one more question. One more question.
We have you can ask one more question. We have a great speaker joining us who I'm intrigued about. Go ahead, Justin.
From at least actually doing a little bit of research on wrestling, is that a lot of these wrestling fights have all these backstories and people are betraying each other and drama and all this.
Jungle, can you get a little closer to your mic? Oh, is that a fake Jungle? Did I fall for that? Damn it.
Okay, I have another question, honestly, for Daniel. Just really curious, because one of the things that he struggled with early in his career is he literally just called the opponent's hand. And this is completely off topic of what we were talking about, but he called the opponent's hand and then call. And I found myself struggling with that when I play poker sometimes, like call their opponent and call. But what do you think? I feel like you do that less often, or maybe just do it in your head. I'd be curious to think, what is your opinion on that? Do you think you still do that? How did you stop? Or is it just in your head now?
Oh, no, I definitely still do it. We'll continue to do, and so does every other top pro. Like every pro does this. But here's the issue, right? I sort of got known for that because I would call it the hand and call anyway and be like, all right, well, what an idiot, right? Why would you do that? Well, one of the main reasons you do that is if the pot has 5,000 in it and the guy bets 2,000 and you're like, shit, I know this guy has like king nine. I'm saying that's his most likely hand, right? But I'm risking 2 to win 7 now. So it's his most likely hand, but I think there's enough of the other hands to make it a profitable call based on pot odds. So it's not like when I say, oh, the guy has king nine, I'm not 100% certain. If I'm 100% certain and still call, that's really stupid, right? But essentially what I'm saying is like, okay, this is what he probably has, but often I would get sucked in, which is going to happen with people. Like when you play poker at a high level, like imagine this, right? Imagine there's extreme example. There's 10,000 in a pot and Shaun bets $100 on the end into 10,000. And I'm like, shit, I know he's not bluffing, but it's $100. Like I'm getting 10,000 to 1 or whatever. I have to call, even though I know that, I'm going to lose in this spot. And that's common. And if you grew up playing limit poker, like especially limit hold'em, you'll see that you do that all the time. Like the pots get so big where there's like 20 bets in there or something. And, you have to call one on the river. You can't just be folding pairs and stuff like that.
And there's also, I think, some future EV in that spot. The information you gain by seeing their hand and being exactly what you thought, and then they might bluff you less down the road. Like there's always extra EV. I think that you also were concluding, because I know I do that a lot. It's like I kind of know what they have, but I want to reinforce that, and I call to make sure. And I'm like, okay, good. My read was correct. I knew exactly where they're at, and I might exploit that later.
I got to share a hand because this one's funny. Martin Zamani, who everyone knows is a pothead. He smokes a lot of pot, right? So he's funny, and I don't know, he's always laughing, right? So we're in the PLO tournament at the Poker Go studio, and I'm doing really well with chips, and he is too. And this pot comes up where I bet on the river. I'm bluffing. I bet 150,000 in chips or whatever. I'm bluffing, and he thinks for almost 2 minutes. And then like about 140 in, he goes, "Come on, Daniel, give me something. Like, what do you think I have?" And I was like, "What do you have? Like ace queen?" I mean, I don't know. Maybe you have ace queen. I couldn't beat ace queen. It made aces and queens. I was pretending I had jack 10. And he looked at me and said, "Historically, when you tell people what they have, that means you can't beat it. I call." I'm like, "Fuck me. This guy watched too much TV." so, so like, so sometimes, a lot of the stuff I've given away in those spots can come back and bite me in the ass. But as Shaun said, originally the whole reasoning behind it is to sort of a little bit of intimidation. Like if you tell people exactly what they have, it's like, whoa, it kind of puts people into like, what do I do now? Like he literally just called out my hand. So am I supposed to bet? There was an example of a World Series hand years ago where I raised with Queen 10. This guy makes like a super small 3-bet from the small. I'm like, okay, I know you have aces. And then I tell him he has aces on the flop, and I flopped a queen. It came queen 5 deuce. He checked. I checked. And then the turn came like a 4. He checked. I just checked. The river was blank, and I go, I know you have aces, so there's no point in betting. And he checked, so I checked back the queen, and and he won with the aces. So there's a little bit of psychology involved in that, but ultimately, to answer your initial question, even when you're beat in spots, like sometimes you're just getting a really really good price, and it would be here's the thing, it would be like a real disaster if you ever like, let's say in limit poker, if there's like 15 bets in a pot and you fold for one to play real cute and make a really good laydown, if you're wrong, it's an astronomically big mistake to be wrong. So you have to be very, very certain if you're going to make, thin laydowns like that.
All right, I'm gonna do like 3 more speakers, then call this space. So who's up now? Johnny, got a question or comment?
Hey guys, yeah, I was gonna ask D-Negs. Of course, the book Small Ball, got me going. I went on a couple of sites after I read that book, and I was wondering, I feel like it's still relevant, and how much of that do you think still is in play today for people that haven't read that book?
Well, so here's the deal, right? It's going to depend on the stakes you play and where you play and who you're playing with. This is, it's if you're playing lower stakes tournaments and stuff, absolutely knocks it out of the park. You're going to do just fine. If you were trying to play just a pure small ball approach that was like I wrote about in that book, and you did that in like the high rollers and stuff, you get chewed up because number one, the whole concept behind small ball is you're not bluffing very much. You're just not. And now if your opponents know that, and your opponents at the higher levels know that whenever you bet like really big on the river, you have it, you cannot win. You just couldn't win, right? So it's very important to have some balance. So updating the basic principles of small ball and incorporating some more, bigger bluffs and bigger sizes and some 3-bets and things like that. The game's evolved a lot since I wrote that. But having said that, like I said, if you just play $500 buy-in tournaments and you take a small ball approach, the key to small ball working best is nobody knowing exactly what you're doing, because what you're doing is you're exploiting by under bluffing like crazy. You play a lot of hands. You're playing a lot of hands that have, potential to make straights and flushes. So you're risking little bits of money here and there to get the big payoff on the river when you hit your hand and these people can't fold, right? So that's essentially the basis of it. So if you're in games like that, the strategy works absolutely just as well. But again, if you're going to sit in the 250K buy-in and think that you're going to be able to win that without, taking some risks, good luck.
Well, hey, soon, man, soon.
Yeah.
Hello.
Appreciate it.
Hey, Ricky.
Hey, thanks for having it, guys. This is awesome. Daniel, just real quickly, I actually met you in 2006. You actually offered me a job at where you were, and then I moved to Long Island. It was kind of funny, but you were a class act. I enjoyed, I appreciated that.
I offered you what job?
So you worked at you were at Full Contact Poker at the time.
And
I was at Card Player, which was just honestly, and you might not like this, just the worst magazine ever. I was one of the interns, paid interns, and I dressed nice, every day. And, I would always do the chip counts, and you were like, hey, bring me your resume. I think I got something for you.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
there you go.
So here's a question for you guys. So we just turned 50, me and my buddies, and we're going to the World Series of Poker this year to play the Masters. So it's a two-part question. One, should I be like over aggressive than I normally would? Like, we're all, none of us are crazy successful at all, but like we've all made like deep runs in smaller WSOP tournaments and stuff like that. So should I change my game up a lot for that? And two, is there any kind of fun activities to do at the World Series? Because I know in 2006 things were crazy. There was like a party every night, and it was like really fun. Is there anything to do that's like really fun that people might not know about? Nightlife type of thing.
I don't do any nightlife during the series, but I do know that Todd Anderson from Poker Night in America is doing his Studio 52 launch, and he's planning on doing a lot of events and different things at the house. So I'm guessing that might be a good place to, rub elbows with some big names, maybe get on a stream or two. That might be the fun happening spot this
I
summer.
wrote for Todd Anderson, actually. I did an article on Poker Night in America. I actually wrote about you. Actually, Shaun, I wrote about you and the slow roll. Do you mind if I DM'd you the article? Because it's kind of pretty funny, and I think you'd like it.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to see it. That sounds awesome, man.
I want to answer the other part of your question about changing your game
Yeah.
up. I'll use this analogy. Like, do you play basketball?
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, I don't know, terrible, but yeah.
Okay, what are you, right-handed or left?
Right.
Okay, so that's your normal. You play right-handed, you shoot
Yeah.
right? Okay, if you were going to play a big money match, would you just say, I guess I should shoot with my left?
No, I would not.
Probably not,
No.
right? So do what you do best. Play your best game that you can. The idea of like taking on a new persona and playing a totally different style that you're unaccustomed to is a disaster waiting to happen, I'd say. So, get comfortable, be yourself, do the best you can, but don't feel like you have to do all these weird, crazy things because other people are doing it. Play your game. If you find that you can be at a table where you're comfortable playing your game, you're going to do much better than thinking like, oh my God, should I be bluffing? I don't know. Like, just, keep shooting with the right hand.
Wow. Good stuff. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate that.
All right,
You got it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for being here. All right, Uncle Tino, you get to be our last speaker.
Awesome. Thank you for letting me be the last speaker. I just wanted to throw this out there. Thank you guys for having this tonight. And what day one of the main event would you guys recommend for a rec player? I won a main event seat last night on Club GG. Thank you, Daniel. Saw you last year. Signed up. Been playing for a year. Won my seat. What do you think is the best day one for a rec player, A through D?
I think personally, whatever fits your schedule best. If you have a 9-to-5 job, whatever can give you the most comfortability, I would say fly out a day or two before, play some low stakes daily to get comfortable playing live poker there. If you want to play poker for a year, you don't want to have your first time touching chips or something being there. So I would say whatever fits your schedule best. Day 1D is always going to be very busy with a lot of people. So if you want to possibly become famous, if you play one of the day 1A, you might have the highest chance of being on the featured table, which, is a very memorable experience for anyone.
Yeah, I think it's a hard question to answer, and it really depends on the person. But I agree with Shaun that day 1D is the largest, and it's going to have probably, even though a lot of pros play day 1D, percentage wise, it's probably despite that, I still think it's probably the softest day in terms of your best chance to succeed.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that also. I think that there's so many satellites. They keep getting as many satellites in as they can. And so the more satellite winners do play, they see in the last 2 days and mostly the last day because they're getting themselves in the last satellite that they're running in, and they're registering the latest.
All right, guys, this was a great space. Thanks, Mike and Daniel, and everyone else who joined at some point. Hopefully we do this again. It was a lot of fun. And Mike, I'll see you in a couple days, and hopefully I get to beat you like I did in Stone.
Yeah. Good luck, buddy.
See you guys.
Later.